Hey, this is Eddie Olczyk. You're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mac, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 100 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen for the 100th time to my co-host, Nick Manella. Nick, it's an honor to be doing number 100 with you.
Yeah, likewise, buddy. I genuinely cannot believe that it made it this far. I felt like it was like watching one of those like old timey flying contraption videos from like the 20s where it's like, it goes well for like 10 seconds and then just comes back to earth crashing like a ton of bricks. But here we are. And could not be happier. I'm so proud of you guys and proud of all the hard work that we've put in. And it's been a ton of fun to do this. So here's to the next 100.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the 200. It's been a little over 2 years now since we started our first episode. So you guys will probably see something on the social media here when this is released. And I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host, Mac Vogel. How are we doing?
I am doing well. I am happy to be here for the 100th episode. I'm rocking my Empty Betters jersey right now in celebration of the pod. I haven't been here for all 100 episodes, but I'm happy to stand along two guys that have and contribute the best I can on a weekly basis. So here with the good attitude and excited for 100 more.
Fucking right.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That got me kind of a little goosebumps there. Thank you. Pleasure to have you, man. It was it's always good to bring, another body on board, and you've been a great help. So even though you weren't here for all 100, we appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, 100%.
Glad to be here.
So before we get rolling here, since this is episode number 100, we got a couple special things for you guys in this episode. So at the end of this episode, I mentioned this last week, we are actually going to have a 15-ish minute demo episode that Nick and I did back in August of 2019 before we ever released any episode on Spotify or iTunes. So this has never been heard by anybody except for me and Nick.
I haven't even heard this, so I'm excited to listen to it myself.
Yeah, this was over 2 years ago, so some things have changed, but it was about a NHL Network like top 20 centers power rankings. We just gave our thoughts on it. We used it as a demo to see if we were actually going to do this podcast or not.
A lot of credibility there too, of course.
Yeah, definitely. So
before anyone listens to this, I would just like to point out before you come for my neck, head, or balls online that this has been 2 years and Connor McDavid has gotten a lot better in 2 years. So I just want everyone to remember that.
And so has Braden Point.
And so has Braden Point.
I knew that one was coming. I knew Point. Yeah. I knew shit on him.
So we're going to stick that at the end of the episode. So when we sign off, it'll start right at the end. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Just a little fun, little embarrassing thing that Nick and I thought would be a sweet little touch and a good old memory for the 100th episode. I do want to announce this before I forget. Karl Alzner, former Washington Capital and Montreal Canadian, joined us for this episode. We interviewed him last week. It was a great interview. Probably the easiest interview we've ever done. You don't really need to ask many questions. You'll see what I mean here shortly.
So much fun.
Yeah, I would say this is probably top 3 interviews that we've done on the pod before. Some great stories, rookie parties, Jose Theodore, Ovechkin stories. You guys are in for a good one. So
good stuff.
That'll be at the middle of the episode per usual. I do want to plug our fall merch before we get rolling here. That dropped, I think 2 weeks ago now at this point, might have been just 1 week, but go to our store, check that out. The new collection is up there. Any support really helps us. That's really how we're making most of the funds of this podcast is through the merch sales. So any support is appreciated. And as always, tag us and if you're rocking it, any Insta posts or whatever you may see fit. I'm going to let Nick talk about a giveaway at the end of the episode. Stay tuned for that. You want to listen all the way through because that's going to be important.
Hey, you want to win some free stuff? Pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Nick, I'm just gonna ask you, like, what's been your favorite part of the pod so far? You want to talk about your perspective as to how we got started with this whole shit shebang?
Yeah, my favorite part is the weekly alcoholism that comes with it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The coolest moment for me, I think, so far was it had to be one of the 3 events I think that we've done, whether that was the golf tournament with Craig and Courtney and everyone that came out to support us there, or the event at Don't Know Tavern, or throwing it way back to our very first tailgate where we were doing that fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. Those have just been so much fun. And I think those are the best because that's when we get to interact with everyone and see people that come out to support us and the people that listen week in and week out, which I'm still astounded by. But yeah, what about you?
Ah, man, there's been so many. I would honestly say I do miss a lot the Mondays that we used to have way back when you'd go to work, you'd wake up early and come to your place after. We'd crack some beers, we'd watch hockey in the office room and just record. We'd have live guests. Like, we would actually, my favorite actually was the Saturday interviews where we would have guys come at 10, 11 a.m. and then noon. We'd buy donuts, coffee, and we'd just roll through interviews. The day that sticks out is when we did Vanakis, Joey, and then I think we did the Finns before him. It was like back to back to back.
We had them like bright and early. We had him at the end, and we had someone else there in between. But it was like 3 back to back to back, and I've never been more exhausted in my life.
Yeah, it was. I just missed the Mondays and the live stuff. Obviously, now we live a little farther apart. We've got Mac on board. We never thought remote recording would ever be a thing for us, and we've definitely adapted well. So I gotta give us a little tap on the back for that. But not many people know this. The reason we started the podcast is because we felt like there was a niche missing somewhere.
Yeah, it's the same reason anyone starts a business. There's a need out there that you can serve.
Right. And there's a lot of hockey podcasts out there, and there are a lot of good ones. They're very information heavy. They're very suit and tie, white collar kind of crowd. And we figured we'd just give something a little more local, a little bit more of a hometown feel to the DC Baltimore area. And we think we have like a, unique thing where we do talk about sports betting, and we do give you advice on how to bet hockey. And it's a different way of watching the game, and you watch for different things. And we just thought that was something that wasn't out there yet. And especially for hockey, which is, probably the most slept on sport in America, in my opinion. So that's why we started it. The demo went great in our opinion. That's why we did it. So you'll hear that. Mac, do you have your favorite part since you've joined?
Yeah, I don't know about like a specific moment other than I would say the golf tournament was a big one, but just my favorite overall part of it is the interview guests that we have on day in, day out, and not just the big ones that people have heard of, but sometimes even more so some of the younger guys that have been in the AHL for a while or in the ECHL and just have wild stories. I feel like we've learned a lot from those guys, and hopefully our listeners have too. And that's kind of another really cool part of the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that too. I mean, we've been able to actually, stay friends with a lot of these people, guys like, Chris Nell and Dan DeSalvo, and, getting to go watch Zach play in person was so cool. So, just
Danny
things
Cristo,
that
Zach
exactly.
Bucali.
Yeah. All those guys.
Our own little network now.
Yeah. Rick, of course. But you never thought that you would become, staying in touch with these guys or even get to the point when you got to interview them in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fun ride. It really has been. And I can't say this enough, but for anyone who does support us, seriously, thank you. It means a whole lot to us and keeps us going, because it's not always just up, 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 up. These two will be the first ones to tell you it's not always easy, but we make it work. So all the support is appreciated. So now that we've sucked ourselves off for about 10 minutes, let's get into this shit. So Mac, I'm going to toss it off to you.
All right. I do have a question of the day. Do you want me to do this beer league story first, or should I save that to the end?
Yeah, go with the beer league story, and then we'll get a question of the day after.
All right. So real quick, I'll try to make it quick. I was telling my dad this story on the phone earlier, but the way my beer league works, it's tough. A lot of guys can't make it week in, week out. Sometimes you have a sub goalie. So it's the kind of thing where you may have played one team before and you're playing them again, and it might be totally different than the first time you played it because there's different guys there. There could be a different goalie, etc. So we're playing this team on Sunday. It's the second time we played them. First game, we crushed them like 13-4 or something. I think they had a sub goalie. This game, they had their main goalie, and he was fucking good. I think he let in like the first or second shot of the game, and then he shut it down from there. It was 1-1 through 3 periods, and it was 1-1 for most of the game too. And so we don't do overtime. We go straight to shootout, and it's a 5-round shootout. So I'd say around like 3 minutes left in regulation. Again, it's tied 1-1. And I miss like my third pretty good chance of the game. Like I had like 3 decent chances to fucking pot one. And like one of them I hit the post. One of them I just straight up like whiffed and missed. I was kind of drunk. And the third one, the goalie just absolutely robbed me. I had like an open cage and somehow he got his glove over there. And I was just fed up, right? So I go to the bench. There's like 2 minutes left. I'm thinking I might get another shift. I might not. Either way, I got to do something because I feel like I'm cursed. You know, those games where like there's something like there's a curse on me right now. So I take the stick I'm using and I throw it back with all the other backup sticks and I grab my backup stick. Now, granted, they're both right behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tell they are the exact same stick and they are the exact same size. Marcus Johansson, Vapor. The only difference is the one stick that I was using throughout the whole game had like a fresh tape job on it that I did that morning. And the backup stick has this like old crusty tape job on it that I haven't touched in like 3 weeks. And I was so fed up, felt like I was cursed. I throw the beautiful tape job stick to the back. I grab my old crusty tape job stick and I'm like, whether I got another shift or whether it's going to matter in the shootout, this is why we are tied still right now. And it's my fault. So I grab the crusty stick. Regulation ends. I don't get another shift. Shootout begins, and it's a 5-round shootout. And then after that, if it's tied, it's just, 1 and 1 and 1. And so I go third, and at that point, it's still scoreless. And everybody on my bench is saying, like, we can't deke on this goalie. You got to shoot it. He's so good, like, side to side. And on top of that, he was doing this weird thing where, like, as soon as the shooter would get, like, halfway down, he'd go, whoop, 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 whoop. The goalie, like this Three Stooges thing. He just starts screaming at you like that.
Sounds like Zoidberg from Futurama.
And like you knew it was happening because he did it to every single guy, but it still startled you. Like even though you knew it was coming, halfway down you hear it and you're like, oh my God, what the and it threw us all off. And so I knew that was coming. I knew he was aggressive. People are telling me don't deke. I go down there and I just like wait on him to make the first move. He does. I rip it blocker side. I score. Then, of course, their guy goes. He scores too. So we're still tied. Then it proceeds to stay scoreless. The goalies make every single save all the way through both teams' lineups.
No way.
We are in like round 15 and it is my turn again. And at that point, like, you can reuse guys however you want the second time around. So like, it's like the Oshie Olympics thing. Like at that point I could have gone every time if they wanted me to or whatever. So I go up there for my second one. I'm like, fuck, I think I'm going to do the same thing again. I might literally try to shoot it in the exact same spot. I go down with that idea and I can see him leaning that way. And so I was like, okay. So I just like went to the other side, scored again. They go, they miss. We win the game. I was the only person to score through 15 rounds of shootout. I scored twice. We won it. The only other thing I will say, and this is so funny to me, both teams wanted to get the hell out of there so badly, like halfway through the shootout. Like we were literally talking to their bench being like, you guys want to just like flip a coin or like, what's the plan here? And like one of their guys was like, no, that's ridiculous. We're not going to flip a coin. It's got to be rock, paper, scissors, your best guy and our best guy. And like, we're literally just going back and forth. And then this one ref that like everybody knows circles around and we're like, hey, Billy, when the hell does this end? And he's like, when one of you morons learns how to score a fucking goal and I get to go home, that's when it ends. Everybody on the ice just wanted to go the fuck home. But old crusty stick is the moral of the story. And we won 2-1. So
I thought you were going to say like the second time you went up there, you like out whooped the goalie. Like you started to do it before he did.
We did have a guy on our team do that when he went down, but I think it distracted himself.
I was going to say.
Because he went down doing it and the goalie went, oh yeah. Like he yelled back, like he got excited. And then he like just freaked out and like shot it right into his pad. And it was like, well, shit, that didn't work.
Goalies are psychos, man. Whatever gets them ticked, they'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
That's a
props
good
to
story,
him
though.
though. And the goalie was nice about it afterwards in the handshake line. He was like, "Hey, nice goals, pal," or whatever. So it was a fun game. Just
Nice.
wanted to share
Yeah.
that one.
That's a
And
good
without
one.
further ado, I will now hop into the question of the day. This is a fun one. It's going to segue us right into the news, which I know we need to get into quickly. So I'll make this quick. It's no secret. We all saw a superstar in the league traded this past week. Jack Eichel leaves the Buffalo Sabres, goes to the Vegas Golden Knights. And that kind of had me thinking about superstars, shakeup, just kind of what it's like to have a superstar on one team, change organizations. And I want to know if you could switch around the following three superstars to like, if you could put them on any team in the NHL just to like make things more interesting, what would you do? I'm going to say McDavid. I'm going to say Matthews. And I'm going to say Ovechkin because he's right up there with the goal scorers in the league this year. And I think he's enough of a superstar, even though he's like, again, I'm not trying to say these are like the three best players in the league or whatever, but they're just like three guys that have superstar aura about them. If you could relocate them to any teams in the league, where would you put them and why?
So like not just like swap Matthews to Toronto, just put them anywhere.
No, you could put those three guys on any team in the league, not the same team though. Like you got to put them each on a different team in the league.
I feel like the obvious one is like you're going to want Matthews to go home and play for the Yotes, like either to save that franchise or just because like you want to see like the American kid play like in his hometown, non-traditional market, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and going off that same theme, McDavid to the Leafs would just be like absolute mayhem. Best player in the he's from Toronto. I mean, best player in the world going home to the biggest hockey market in the world with the most insane fans. I would definitely want to see that.
Hear me out. I would send him close to Toronto, but right over the border into Buffalo. And I would see what would happen if we took the best player in the NHL and put them on the worst team in the NHL.
Wow. That would be pretty wild. A McDavid Sabres situation. That would be nuts.
It was this close to happening.
Yeah.
Remember? The Sabres fans thought they were going to get him. They had all the like right before the draft, they had, 15 on the back with McDavid duct taped over the draft. So yeah, what could have been.
Yep. And then
what about
Ovi? Oh God, this is hard.
I have one weird one. I don't know if I love it. Actually, I have two. I have two that I think would like make sense in a weird way. One is Florida.
I was going to say that too. That's so weird.
I think number one, he dominates Florida. He scores so many goals against that team, but I feel like maybe that means he's like comfortable there, or maybe he's like likes that building or something like that.
He likes Miami. I know that.
He would thrive there. Yeah, I could also see like I feel like it's a stereotype, like Russians loving like Florida or whatever, but it'd be cool. The other one I was going to say is the Sharks, and that's just because they're like the Western Conference Capitals. Lots of people have compared him to them before, and I feel like he could be like the guy to go to that like team and finally get them a like cup or something like that.
I feel like
also I think he would look good in the black armor.
Yeah, I think Montreal would like go nuts for him if he was in their market. They would lose their shit.
Wild. Yeah,
but like I would cry if that ever happened. So please don't.
I would hate it. Hate it.
The Florida one makes sense. I mean, yeah, the whole Russia thing, I think that kind of is well known around the league. I'm trying to think, like, I would hate this, but it would be pretty entertaining. No, I'm not. It'd be pretty entertaining. Philly. That would be interesting.
Oh,
those fans are nuts. And they like, you put like good athletes in Philly, you're like, you can do literally whatever you want. You could rob a bank. You could light a hospital on fire. Like you could do whatever you want and they support it. Like,
like normal, like Philadelphia citizen activities.
Yeah, exactly. So him and Philly would be pretty interesting. I would hate that personally, but
same.
I don't know why that one came to mind.
For some reason with Matthews, I was thinking about like one of the LA teams or like LA or Anaheim or something like that could be kind of wild.
It just runs up the hallway like to every game with Bieber next to him or wherever Bieber lives. I don't know where he lives.
Yeah.
But,
sure, he's got a house there anyways.
And then McDavid, the one I'm going to throw out there is actually Detroit. I think that could be kind of wild.
What's your thought process there? Just because?
Well, I really like the direction that Detroit is going in. Like this past like year and a half ish, they had a shit fuck season last year, and this year I mean, I know it's only 10 or 12 games, but they're turning it around real good. And I like the young guys. I like the prospects and their minors. I think like if you put a guy like McDavid there, they could go from like being a possible cup contender in like 5 years to like being one like next year, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the trajectory they're on. I agree with you. That would be something that would be pretty cool if McDavid ever ended up there. But I think the entire country of Canada is just giving him the keys to do whatever the fuck he wants up there as long as he doesn't leave. So yeah. Good one, Mac. I like that. So before we hop into the news, obviously you guys know that this 100th episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by Brackish Life. Let's take a minute to talk about Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Brackish Life has also teamed up with Rink to Reef Chesapeake Bay to preserve the area many of us call home. Rink to Reef repurposes broken hockey sticks into oyster restoration habitats. Brackish Life donates a portion of their proceeds to Rink to Reef to further preserve the beautiful Chesapeake Bay area. Support this great cause by checking out www.brackish.life today. Thank you to Brackish Life, our first ever sponsor, 100 Deep, and we really appreciate the support.
Yeah, big thanks to Kyle and the whole team and the whole family over there. They are a bunch of great people. If you ever get the chance to meet them, they're always, in and around Easton and Ocean City during the summertime. So definitely try and find them and say hello.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, I'm going to toss it across to you to drive the bus here.
For sure. So first and foremost, congrats, boys. Not only is it our 100th episode, but it's the first episode that in recent memory that I can think that we don't have just a bunch of nonsense and speculation to talk about Jack Eichel with. So the Sabres finally traded their superstar to the Vegas Golden Knights. This was confirmed by ESPN last Thursday. The return for Buffalo is Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuch, a 2022 first-round draft pick, a 2023 third rounder, and Vegas will also get a draft pick as part of the deal. Eichel was the number 2 overall pick by Buffalo back in 2015. Like Harry mentioned, he's in the 4th year of an 8-year, $80 million contract, and in the last year before a full no movement clause kicks in next summer. So pay attention to that because I think that might come back to hurt him. Eichel is going to get an artificial disc replacement surgery as soon as this week, sources told ESPN. And after that surgery, he is expected to be cleared in 6 weeks, but it is a minimum of 3 months until he would be cleared for contact. That timeline would put his return until at least after the All-Star break, and it likely takes him out of contention for being on the American Olympic team. So that's a big kick in the dick right there.
Yeah. Wow. Probably the biggest trade that's been broken since we started recording this podcast, I would say. So
would you say the biggest one since Weber Subban?
It's up there. Yeah.
Maybe.
I'd say probably. Did you mention that this, I think I put it in here, but I could be wrong. It's going to end up putting them like $9 or $10 million over
11.
the cap, $11 million over the cap. So there's definitely going to be some moves made here.
And there's been some really interesting like projections of what those moves might be too. You can find those all over Instagram.
Right. And if you remember last week when we were talking about the White Cloud, is that his name?
Yep.
White Cloud signing that, that a 6-year extension for $2 million per is a little strange.
It is
kind of raises some eyebrows. So I'm wondering
it's usually like a 2x2 or like a 3x2.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's something in the shuffle there, but thoughts on the trade here initially, boys?
Well, initially I wanted to jump off a cliff because I hate the Vegas Golden Knights. And I like Jack Eichel and I want to root for him because he's a talented hockey player. But I will say, as much as I hate the Vegas Golden Knights, Harry, I sent you guys both that video today that was like a video of him like getting out of the big SUV and getting greeted by the mascot, that stupid dinosaur or whatever the hell. And
Chance the Raptor.
Yeah. But anyway, that kind of got me a little excited. Like I'm excited for him at least because it's got to feel great. Like, I don't want to hate on Buffalo. I know it's an amazing hockey town with an amazing NHL, like diehard fan base, but leaving a city like Buffalo to go somewhere like Vegas where there's just like, I mean, it's like day and night with
it's like getting out of prison.
the hustle and bustle that's there versus the just nothingness that's in Buffalo. Like there's really not much to do there. So especially when you're there for like multiple years, it's like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So I gotta feel good for him. I'm upset because I'm sure the Vegas Golden Knights are gonna get even better now. But I'm at least happy that hopefully we'll be able to see him play hockey soon because I miss that.
Yeah, and I mean, especially as an American, he's one of the guys you got to root for. I mean, him, Matthews, they're the future of American hockey. And personally, I don't hate the Vegas Golden Knights. I do have family over there, so I tend to root for them a little bit. Yeah, I know.
I have family over there
apologize.
too, and I still hate them.
Nah, there you go. So I have family that I hate, but they're over here. So yeah, there's
Half
a
my
difference.
brain cells are still there, and I still hate that team.
My aunt has season tickets to the Knights, and I couldn't hate them more. So.
Wow. Respect. You actually should see a game there though. Like actually, I'm telling you, it's
I would actually love to. All kidding aside, I would
it's
absolutely love
super
to.
cool. I mean, we could sit here and say, oh, this is great for Vegas, blah, blah, blah. I guess let's all, cut the pitter patter in Nick's famous words in our demo episode and let's get to it. Are they going to win the cup as a result of this?
No.
No.
Absolutely
I
not.
I don't really think. I think this puts them in a good spot long term, especially with his contract and his age. But I still just don't feel like it's gonna happen for them this year. I don't trust Robin Lehner in net. I've said that once. I've said it twice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it again.
I'm with you.
I don't trust him as the number one to take you all the way to the cup. That being said, they are easily on paper, excluding goaltending, I would say probably the deepest team, right neck and neck with Colorado.
That's fair. The D is actually unbelievable how deep
It is. You know who else
Yeah.
was a great team on paper?
Who?
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Or like the 2015 Washington Capitals,
or the 2010 Washington Capitals, or the 2013 Washington Capitals, or
the 2018 Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, all these things are true. That brought up a bad memory, Mac. I'm trying to focus here. I mean, I think Vegas is very, very good. I think we're going to see them in the third round again, somehow, some way. I would love to see a Vegas, Colorado Western Conference final. I think that would be electric. It's definitely the two best teams in the Western Conference. What's scary, and what I'll ask you is, they're projecting the first line when he comes to be Pacioretty, Eichel, and Mark Stone, which a lot of people are saying, is this now going to be the best line in hockey above the perfection line in Boston, or that top line of Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon and an Avalanche? What do you guys think about that top line?
First thing I'll say about that top line is immediately goes into the talks for like top three best firepower, like, best shots of any combined unit in the NHL between Pacioretty and Eichel. So
yeah, absolutely. And Stone ain't got no cookie duster on his blade either. So.
No, he's no slouch.
It's a dangerous line, no doubt about it. I will say you should when you're naming all those other great first lines in hockey, I'm such a homer. I really got to bring it up, but that OV Kuzi Wilson line has been pretty unbelievable for the first 10 or 12 games of the year. So
it's been clicking. Yeah. There's been a lot of ranking. I can't remember what page it was. It might've been Puck Empire or somebody. They were ranking like the top first lines. Those three, the Washington Capitals lines was up there. I think they were like 7 or 6 or something. And deservedly so. But yeah, I mean, they might have the best first line in hockey. And right now all three of them are injured. So that kind of sucks. I mean, the Knights are, staying afloat, and their 4 best players arguably are all hurt. So that kind of sucks for them.
Do you guys think this was an overpay?
I don't know if I'd say overpay. I mean, I think if anything, Buffalo maybe think of how much time has gone by since we started talking about this, and look at what they got. And I'm not trying to bash them, but it's really not that much for how long and amped up this trade was.
I don't think it's an overpay unless Peyton Krebs ends up being really, really, really good. I know that he's a top prospect and that he is projected to be a pretty solid player, but I don't think we'll fully know if this was an overpay until we can really figure out who that guy is.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that first round pick is top 10 protected, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
So what the fuck? I don't know.
I think, The return for Buffalo is interesting. You get Tuck, who seems, he's from there. So obviously he's excited about wanting to play there. And then Peyton Krebs, a guy who's had injury issues himself, who's now going into the Sabres. And I think he's going to go straight to Rochester. I don't think he's going to start with the Sabres, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he turns into.
Also worth noting that Buffalo did not retain any salary, which if you're connecting the dots here, the trade could have gotten done a lot sooner and a lot easier if they agreed to retain some salary. And one of the hot topics is that because Buffalo has cap space, because Buffalo is not competing for a Stanley Cup in the next 2 to 3 years, why didn't they just get the trade over with sooner, get Eichel what he wanted, and, eat some salary, whether it was a third or even half in some type of trade. But, the owner, I guess, is just stingy, for lack of a better term. And, man, he did not budge at all on that. So long time coming. I'm not necessarily sure Buffalo's getting everything that they deserve out of this, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Eichel in Vegas. He's going to be in a big market, and I think that's great for the game.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the Chicago Blackhawks. They fired head coach Jeremy Colleton. Derek King will take over as interim coach. He was head coach of the Rockford Ice Hogs.
It's about time.
Yeah, this was after the Hawks went 1-9-2 to start the season. So it is an absolute dumpster fire there for pretty much every reason right now, and they just cleaned out the coaching staff. Well-known player agent Alan Walsh took to Twitter last Tuesday morning to express his displeasure with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Walsh sent out a string of tweets calling out the commissioner's handling of several key situations over the past few years. I'm hearing this morning that several NHL owners are very concerned and unhappy with Gary Bettman's leadership. I think that even the owners realize it's time for a change in the NHL culture, and a change in the NHL, and only the culture changes in the NHL when it comes from the top down. It's time to fire Bettman. What do you guys think about this? He goes on to talk about how Bettman has sort of like mismanaged events in the past, such as, the link between brain injuries and CTE, and, for, doing nothing to help retired players that are maybe having, effects from some situations like that. What are your guys' thoughts on this so far? Because it seems like a lot of people agree with him.
I'm team fire Bettman. I've really never been a fan of the guy. I think most people haven't been a fan of the guy for most of the time he's been the commissioner. He gets booed every time he comes to present the Stanley Cup, and no matter what stadium it is. So I think that tells you something right there, that the masses don't like the guy. I think Walsh makes a lot of good points, and I think he's sticking his neck out there for a lot of people. And I support pretty much everything Walsh said, and I am team fire Bettman.
I mean, I will definitely say that the entire Blackhawks situation that's gone down in the last month has definitely not helped his image. And I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but I think that the John Doe 2 in the report, the mother came out and talked, and apparently Bettman is not going to be funding any of the mental health rehabilitation work that her son is trying to get. So just really not a good look. The NHL has kind of just gotten a tarnished look on its logo over the past, month. And I think the way Bettman has handled it has been really bad. Now, unfortunately, morals don't always take number one priority in a business, and the NHL is a business. Their job is to make money. And I think for me, when you look at where the NHL has gone in the last 20 years, it's definitely gone up, but I'm not sure if we've gone up as quickly as we should have. And I think that our sport is so great and our players are so awesome. And, we have so many good guys and that can represent the sport, and, McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, Matthews, all these guys. And I feel like there's just some type of disconnect between the casual fan and the way the NHL is marketing. And I think the ESPN deal is a step in the right direction, but I just don't think it's really going to get us to where we need to be. So am I team fire Bettman? I mean, I guess so. I also would like to point out, is there a commissioner that anybody in sports likes? Like, actually? Like,
Can't
nobody
think of
likes
one.
No, that's kind of like my point, is like everybody fucking hates every commissioner, whether it's Goodell,
That's fair.
whether it's Manfred. I can't think of. Well, the NBA guy who passed away was pretty popular, I think. But
For the most part, it's
Yeah.
a thankless job, which, I understand. But I still think that, like, there's a million
Yeah.
ways to be better than this.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, this everything's gotten dropped in the last month, which I think should ultimately lead to some type of something. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, Harry, you make a great point. I mean, Walsh's last tweet in that string said, for the way the game is marketed, for the lack of any coherent global strategy, for turning his back on issues like painkiller, Ambien, and Toradol abuse, for his lack of empathy and caring, and for his 3 lockouts and all the lies. And then he says it's time for Gary to go. And those are things, that are true. Now, Bettman did take the NHL from, about here to here in terms of marketing it. But Harry, I completely agree with you that it should have grown a lot more than it has in the last, 26, 27 years. How long has he been doing this now?
Yeah, something like that. And you could even argue, I mean, think about it. In 05, after the lockout, when Sid and Ovi were rookies, we were on the OLN network, and now we're on ESPN. But you could argue we never should have been on the OLN network. There never should have been a 2004-05 lockout. We should have not had all that happen. And we've had 2 of them since. So it's like, come on, get it together.
We shouldn't have had the stupid little half lockout. What was that, like 2011, 2012, something like that?
Yeah.
And that, and that's just the league issues. That's before we get to the, stuff that's about morality and just being a decent human being. So
yeah,
I think at this point, probably what's going to happen in the NHL, in order to, stay afloat, they just need to be open and transparent. And that just goes across the board. I mean, the NHL is famous for not releasing their player injuries. I think that's something that we're going to see now. We're going to see a lot more in-depth and transparency with that. And I think, situations like the Blackhawks situation and situations like Jack Eichel's situation, where ultimately the NHLPA or the team, the NHLPA released that statement the other day saying that in their rules, technically the team gets to decide what surgeries players do and don't have, and that players aren't in control of what's happening to their body and stuff. And I just think that's completely backwards. So,
yeah, I agree with you. Now, if they do something, I don't think it would be an in-season thing, especially with everything that's come out in the last month. I feel like if that's not going to get him fired, then I'm not really sure what will. So I think if something were to happen, it would probably be an off-season move.
I'm wondering how hard it would be to fire a commissioner mid-season, what that would actually do to the league. But I genuinely hope we don't test that theory. Let's move on. Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Mikhail Sergachev was suspended for 2 games without pay Friday for an illegal check to the head of Toronto's Mitch Marner. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. The incident occurred in the first period of the Leafs 2-1 overtime win Thursday night in Toronto. Basically, Sergachev kind of closed off Marner with his elbow, it looked like to me. What did you guys think of this one?
I think it was fair. 2 games. I think that's fair. 1 game, 2 game. That's what I expected.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much in line. It was kind of an awkward play. Obviously, if you haven't seen it, go watch. But Hedman kind of ties up Marner, and Marner's they're racing for the puck, and Marner's leaning forward, and then Sergachev comes in, and because Marner's leaning forward, kind of clips his head. Leafs Twitter loses their mind because no one goes to John Tavares, I think, was the guy trying to fight. So that should tell you everything you need to know. But obviously Leafs Twitter loses their mind over everything. It could be a speck of ice that's not sitting right on the puck or something stupid like that. So yeah, I think 2 games is just about right and pretty much in line with what we would expect.
Yeah, I thought about 2 was fair. I did see one great tweet that was if this was any other player on any other team, it would have been 1 game.
Yeah, maybe, probably. Yes.
Brady Tkachuk was named the 10th captain in Ottawa Senators history, which is 10 seems a little bit high to me, considering that team came into the league in what was it, 91, 92 or something like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Alfredson, obviously.
Wade Redden.
I don't know.
Spezza.
Mike Fisher ever or no?
I don't know.
I know he was in Nashville, but I don't think he was in Ottawa.
Because
Chris Phillips, was he ever one?
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm running out.
Oh, well, I think that's a good move. I'm a little bit surprised it wasn't Shabbat, but I think, they like what they see from Tkachuk. And he scored the other night with the C on, so it seems like he's liking it.
Yeah, I'm in support of it. I think, there's been lots of young captains that have panned out. I think we both know 2 of them that come to mind. So
I feel like it's not like it used to be. 10, 20, 15 years ago, you wouldn't hand like a child the C unless they were Sid or Obi. Now I think it's a little bit more common because these kids are just like battle tested coming out. You know, they're already pros by the time they get to the NHL. So I think it's just something that they can take a little bit more in stride.
It's also hard not to look at the Kachuk boys and think, holy shit, like these guys are men at like 20. Just the way they play, the attitude. I love it.
The way they were probably raised by Keith.
Right. Oh, yeah. And their sister too, one of the best field hockey players in the country as well.
Really? Wow. Didn't know that. It's awesome.
We had a battle of the regulation undefeated teams. Florida hands Carolina their first loss of the season Saturday night in Sunrise. The Panthers win 5-2. The Duke has 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points on yours truly's fantasy hockey team. Thank you very much. Spencer Knight gets the dub, and Barkov did not play this game. I think he's technically day-to-day, correct?
Yes.
Cool. What did you guys think of this game? I have one thought after watching this, and that's please God, let this be a playoff series.
I would like to see that. Yeah, I think it'd be great. It was a fun game. The one thing I kind of took away from it is Spencer Knight is good, obviously, but I think that despite him getting the win, what I've taken away from him this season in general is that I think we may have overestimated him a bit, and we may have underestimated Bob's ability to bounce back too, because he's actually been lights out. But Panthers got it done in this game with Knight and net. They also, I think, lost for the first time in regulation last night.
Yep.
To the Rangers. And if I'm not mistaken, they were down 4-0 in the third period and they made it 4-3.
They did.
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
My big question is they have their interim head coach name is escaping me. We said it last week, but it's escaping me. If it ain't broke, I wouldn't fix it. I mean, you know, there's been, I know when it all went down with Quenneville, they thought that Tortorella was going to get hired, and a lot of people were even reporting that it was real, and turns out that didn't happen. But I don't know, man, with the way that Duclair's playing, you got to think he's just like praying to God every night, like, please don't bring Torts here. Please. And Bobrovsky too. I mean, they both have really bad history with him. And the team is clicking on all cylinders. So I don't know if you want to mess with what you got going on.
Did Duclair have Torts in New York and Columbus, or just in Columbus?
I think just Columbus.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I feel like everyone sometimes forgets that like an interim coach who's already been coming up in the system and knows the system and knows the players is sometimes the best move.
Yeah, you don't always need the super
unless his
guy.
name is Todd Reardon.
Oops.
In that case, don't get rid of the coach that just won you the Stanley Cup and just pay him whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's a sensitive topic over here for all you listening, in case you can't tell. But yeah, that was a great game. Would be a great playoff series. The Southern teams, man, they're bringing it this season. So it's kind of cool to see the untraditional markets making some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. You know who else is making some noise?
Every night.
I saw an amazing tweet today that said that Connor McDavid got fined like X amount of dollars to pay the tuitions of the 4 New York Rangers he took to school the other night.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
That was a good one.
Goal of the year?
Yeah,
so far, I think. Yeah. We had that game on my TV. I had some people over that night and we were all just hanging out in the living room, but that game was on TV on mute. We were listening to music, and like when it happened, I was really the only true hockey fan in the room. Everybody else is like, yeah, whatever. Everybody was like looking at the TV going like, oh my God, what the hell? Like that was impressive.
It was like, go ahead.
No, you go.
It's like, that's the perfect play to show a non-hockey fan, and they can tell you right away who the best player in the world is. It's because he's the guy out there making 4 NHLers look like traffic cones.
And did you guys see the side-by-side of McDavid like in like past the blue line, and the 4 Rangers are on the other side of him, and it's got the timestamp, and then like 4 seconds later the puck's in the back of the net.
Yep.
He moves quick. Just an unreal goal. I mean, Jesus, man, the Oilers they're like,
and that was like their best defenseman too.
Yeah.
It was like Trouba and Fox, wasn't it?
Yep.
I can't remember. I think you're right on that, but watching him and Dreisaitl right now is like watching the Harlem Globetrotters. Like it is just they don't even try. Like I watched their game the other night. It was the game before the Rangers. I can't remember who they played. Over 1.5 hit, by the way. And their power play, it's just like backhand sauce through the neutral zone the entire time. Like they're not even like trying. It's just like flick of the wrist, like they got their little like head shakes going. They're doing they got some skip in their crossovers. You can just tell they're feeling it. And it's just like, they're not even trying. It's disgusting.
The other thing that was awesome about that spectacular goal he scored is it was his second point of the night with like 2 minutes left. So if that bit hit and it tied the game, and then in overtime, Dreisaitl scored the OT winner, and that was his second point of the game. So he like single-handedly kind of allowed the both of those bets to hit, which is cool.
Yes. So we'll talk more about McDavid and Leon later. I mean, what they're doing right now is historic and it's incredible to watch. But yeah, if you haven't seen that Connor McDavid goal against the Rangers on Saturday night, you got to go see that because that was something else.
Yeah. Alex Ovechkin scored his 741st career goal to tie Brett Hull for fourth on the NHL's all-time list. Ovechkin is on pace to pass third place Jaromir Jagr's 766 goals before the end of the season. He needs 25 more, according to math. Following Jagr, Ovi would then only need to pass Mr. Hockey at 801 and then some guy named Wayne Gretzky at 894 in order to be number one all time.
He's making it fun, isn't he?
He's coming. Yeah, he's coming. He's really putting in a good effort, and you can tell he wants it. He's shooting to score. Last night, he got the puck with like a second left in his
just winged it.
Ripped it. He almost hit the empty net too. Like he's trying to score as much
he
as
could
he
have
can.
had like 8 last night. It was ridiculous.
He could have, and the first goal that ended up being Wilson's goal, it deflected off Ovi, then it deflected off Wilson, then went in. Willie in the post-game interview, he was like, yeah, shit, I should have just got out of the way. You'd already be chasing Jagr by now.
Well, as Karl Alzner will tell you a little bit later, that might happen.
He should already be
right?
chasing. Yeah, that should have been his 742nd.
Yeah, let's just say when you listen to the Alzner interview, it's going to be a real shame if Ovi ends his career at 893
or 894. Yeah.
If he ended at 894 or 893, you'll know once you listen to the interview what we're talking about. It's a pretty cool story, actually pretty funny. But this has nothing to do with goals, but I'm just pointing this out because I think it's cool and I'm a nerd. And if you're a nerd yourself, then you'll respect this. You know Ovechkin's famous tape job? It's like scrapes pucks all over it. Half TJ, like most of the blades uncovered. When he does warm-ups,
oh, I knew you were gonna say it.
It's full bladed, which is psychotic to me. Like
and all white.
Yes, there's no puck marks. Why do you warm up with a tape job that's so much different than what you play with? It doesn't make sense to me, but it works for him. I like Malkin wears 2 different gloves. I guess I can't judge. It must be a Russian thing, but it's just interesting. Next time you're at a Caps game or you're watching warm-ups, look at his tape job in warm-ups and then look at it in the game. It's weird to me. I find it fascinating. I nerd out over that shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that is interesting.
One last thing here before we get to some random stuff. The Premier Hockey Federation announced that ESPN has acquired the international rights to 30 PHF regular season games in the upcoming 21 and 22 season, plus special events, the Isobel Cup playoffs, and the championship. So that's awesome for women's hockey to get some nationally broadcasted games, games that I will be tuning into and hopefully our book will have so I can make some money on.
I'm pumped for this. I was so annoyed the last couple seasons when like it just seems like it's so hard to find these games and you got to find some ridiculous stream online and it's glitchy. I'm really excited to actually be able to like just watch these on TV.
Speaking of that, what have you guys thought of ESPN's coverage and handling of the NHL so far? I had a couple people this past weekend ask me about it at a wedding I was at. Shocker. Honestly, like sick wedding though. It was so much fun.
Good. You need one of those.
Yeah. But what what are your initial thoughts so far?
All right. So I'm going to be honest here. And this is a question to you two. Has it felt like for the last, let's say 2 to 3 weeks, all the NHL games on ESPN are at 10:30 Eastern?
Yep.
here's my thought on it. Like the first week, they made a big deal about being like, oh, primetime game on ESPN, primetime game on TNT, primetime game on ESPN2, whatever. And then like I literally haven't seen shit on anything except ESPN Plus for the last like 3 weeks.
Because they're all on Hulu right now.
Wait,
Yeah.
really? I've watched the games on ESPN Plus.
No,
So
I've
some
watched them
games
on
on
ES.
Hulu.
I've watched
Yeah.
them on ESPN Plus, but my point is like I can't just turn on the normal TV and get it
Yeah.
on like
The main
ESPN,
stations.
the actual channel, or TNT, which is what I understood that those games were going to be on there at least like once or twice a week. And maybe that's going to be after football season or whatever the fuck. But it seems like they made a huge deal about it at the beginning of the season. And now they don't give a shit because it's prime time for like football and NBA. And that's all anybody wants to talk about, which is not really a shocker to me. So I've been pretty underwhelmed, to answer the question.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I also think that the area that's lacking is just in their coverage in general. It's like you turn on SportsCenter and it's like Connor McDavid doesn't exist.
I had SportsCenter on my TV this morning for about an hour and a half. I didn't see one lick of an ice rink, a hockey puck, or a hockey stick. Nothing. It was all college football, NFL, NBA.
Yeah, I would say they're doing a pretty piss poor job. And I don't think NBC did a lot of things right. But one thing that they did do that I think ESPN needs to implement, and if this is already implemented and I don't know about it, then it should tell you how bad they're doing at it, is I knew Wednesday night rivalry night was a thing. Doesn't matter how good the game is. Like, I'll watch it. You can argue that they had a bad schedule for that, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least you know when it's going to be on.
They marketed it well, for sure.
Yes.
And if it was a East Coast team, they pushed it back to prime time at 8. If it was a West Coast team, they bumped it up an hour early to like prime time at 9. So that way the East Coast people could still watch it.
Right. And I just feel like we're not getting that. Like the other night, I think it was like Buffalo and San Jose 10:30 on ESPN. I was like, who the fuck is going to, one, stay up for that? And two, why is that the matchup? Like, you need to get the Oilers on television.
Right.
Like,
that's a gift for Sabres fans. They get to go to bed early and they don't have to watch their team play.
Right.
They need to get the Oilers on like now. Like, let's get
it's
some.
Also unfortunate because it's like if somebody did stay up, which statistically, like there was somebody who stayed up, hasn't really watched hockey before, was like, oh look, yeah, that's right, ESPN's covering hockey now. Let's see what this is all about. Boom. Sabres, Sharks, watched probably like 10 minutes of it, fell asleep because it was so fucking boring.
Yeah. I think some there's some stuff that I've seen just in like the intermission coverages too. Like the panel they have with like, Biz and Gretzky, I think is hysterical because it's the greatest hockey player to have ever played. And then Biz, who just can do anything and make me crack up. But like the, other broadcast teams, maybe not on, like TNT or ESPN. It's like, have you ever seen a hockey game before? And it's okay if you haven't, but I feel like if I took that piece of paper away, you wouldn't know how to describe what's going on. And it's obvious.
Yeah, I think Messier and Chelios have been good for ESPN. I think Biz and Gretzky have been good for TNT, but in general, the coverage I think is underwhelming. I do not like Steve Levy as an announcer in general, to be honest with you. I think Butchie Gross is good. Or Nick, I know you think he's average. I think he's decent. I think he's above average. But
I think he's a great personality. It's just like the play-by-play thing isn't my favorite.
Something's lacking. I think they need to figure out how to incorporate Kevin Weeks more. I know him and Linda Cohn have been doing a lot of the late night games, and I think maybe you start getting them on the East Coast stuff. Maybe upgrade him from being a newsbreaker to some like bigger role there. I don't know, but
one other thing while we're talking about hockey TV coverage that's really been bothering me is it feels like there's been an abnormal amount of games on NHL Network, which I just don't get at all. Like I just don't have it. I don't have any way to access it. And
you don't want it.
I know it's not even good, but like also, yeah, I'll find like some stream of it online that's glitchy and I'll try to watch it anyway. And the like coverage is like, I'm like, God, this is
it's painful.
And it's boring games too. I swear I watched like, I think it was like Sabres, like Coyotes or something like that. And I was just like, Jesus fuck.
Yeah, NHL Network is horrible, man. It's so boring.
It's a great point though, because it's like they sort of led you to believe it's like, oh, all these games are going to be like on ESPN and like you guys said, like on TNT, it's going to be like, boom, I can go like right with my remote to each one of these channels. And I feel like, especially like me personally, it's like, okay, I go to turn on a TV. It's like 6:58. I know the Caps game is about to start. I'm going to one of three places. I'm going to NBC Sports Washington. If the Wizards are playing, I'll go to NBC Sports Washington Plus. And if it's a national game, I'll go to NBCSN. And if I have to look anywhere other than that for the game, it's not on TV. Now I'm like ESPN Plus, Hulu, TNT, ABC, ESPN 1 through 5. Like,
yep.
You're
Like,
the same person as me,
100%.
dude.
yeah.
Yep.
It's like they just made it so much more difficult, and it's not like they publicize where the games are going to be played. So it's like I'm now digging into the NHL app every day, making sure I can watch these.
And that's really the only way to do it. If you haven't figured it out yet, is go download the NHL app, go to it, and it should have a little thing next to it that says the channels that it's being broadcast on. That's
It has either
game.
like it has between like 1 and 3 broadcast networks, depending on how the game is being covered. But
it'll either have the big red ESPN logo on it, the black TNT logo, or it'll just in like regular letters say like WNBCSW, like
yeah,
NBCS Washington or whatever.
I think the coverage has been subpar
yeah, I agree.
to sum that entire rant up.
Something that's not subpar is how Leon Dreisaitl and Connor McDavid have been playing lately. We touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about his goal, but I feel like, we would be remiss if we didn't mention just how good these guys have been this season.
So for the sake of discussion, I'm just going to ask this question. It's a yes or no. I want to get to the interview here shortly, but is Leon Draisaitl solidifying himself as the second best player in the world right now?
Right now, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
so. Just based on, how he's playing, it's you really can't make an argument outside of that.
I'll give you that right now. I think too, it's almost comparable to like the Sedin brothers or something. It's like you can't really have one without the other, but when you have the two, it's like they just know where each other are on the ice. And even though they don't necessarily play with each other that often, unless it's the power play, they complement each other super well up and down the lines there.
For sure.
This season, they actually the start out the season they didn't play together, and then I noticed that in the last like 5 games they swapped them on the same line, and the numbers are just insane. So it's
Also,
like now it's like holy shit.
If the Oilers are like losing by like 1 or 2 with like under 5 minutes left, they'll put them together on the same line, and it's so much fun to watch. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And the Oilers fans are now chanting, "We want the cup outside the arena." So
did see that.
And to that, I say, settle down.
Yeah. Maybe wait until it's actually 2022 before we start doing that.
And let's not forget what happened to you guys last year. These 2 players were amazing, and
Correct.
You guys still sucked in the playoffs. So everybody just calm down.
Someone who's not been calming down at all, in addition to those guys, is Troy Terry. One of my favorite players to watch, has been for a very long time. He's got 8 goals, 7 assists, and 15 points in only 12 games played so far. And I do think it's worth pointing out that he is doing that on the Anaheim Ducks, which are, while they do have a lot of potential, and I think they're going to be a good team down the road, they're not there right now. What have you guys thought of his game so far? I think it's been really impressive.
He's playing well. That power play with him and Getzey is kind of electric to watch. So that's been fun. The youngster and the veteran. Especially with Getzlav chasing 1,000 points here. He should be getting that in the next couple of weeks, but he's played well. A good old American boy. Who did we have on that played with him? Was it Tarek?
Yeah,
Tarek
they won a national championship together.
Yeah, we talked. If you haven't listened to that interview, go listen back. It's episode 70 something. I forget. We're at 100 of these already. Humble brag. But yeah, he played with Troy Terry over at Denver, right?
Yep.
And he talked about how silky he is, how good he is in practice. So it's not that surprising to see what he's doing based on some guys we've talked to.
Yeah,
he's been good. The Ducks have been way better than I thought they would be to start out the season. They have been a very tough team to bet against. So I would caution anytime that you think you have a sure thing. If it's against the Ducks, maybe cut whatever unit you were going to put in that in half or something, because they've been a thorn in a lot of people's sides.
For sure. Well, a huge part of their success has been the NHL's 3rd star of the week, John Gibson, their goaltender. This past week, he had 2 wins, a .5 GAA, and a .984 save percentage.
Sheesh.
Yeah, buddy. Good numbers. Making a case, wants to be a part of that Olympic team and wants to start some games.
Yeah. I mean, he'd been lights out for the last week. So
He's
deservedly
making a
star.
case for more than just that. He's making a case for Vezina if he keeps that up.
Yep. The second star of the week was also a goaltender, the Leafs' Jack Campbell, 3-0-0, a .99 GAA, and a .968 save percentage. How are you? Number one, of course, is Leon Dreisaitl from the Oilers, 10 points, 5 goals, 5 apples. That's a pretty good week.
In a week.
Yeah, any way you slice it, that's pretty good. Before we hop into this interview with Karl Alzner, we just want to remind everyone that summer may be over, but there's still never been a better time to get out on the water. Are you looking to finance that new boat or yacht you've always dreamed of? Well, you're in luck because the Yacht Lender is a specialist in marine finance. With partnerships with 15 different banks, he is the right lender for whatever vessel you may be in the market for. Backed by Trident Funding with over 25 years as an industry leader, the Yacht Lender has the expertise and know-how to finance the boat of your dreams. Don't wait. Apply today at yachtlender.com or check him out on Instagram at yachtlender to see others who have already gotten out on the water. We're going to go ahead and toss it off to Alzner right now. Well, it's now my pleasure to welcome Mr. Karl Alzner to the Empty Betters podcast. Karl, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, no problem. This is awesome. It's sweet that you can do something like this while laying in bed like I am.
I was going to say, you look pretty comfy right now. Got the fuzzy mic to match. So, yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time. How has everything been for you lately? What have you been up to? What's new?
It's been pretty good. We've been busy, as I assume you can tell by my tardiness getting on this call with you guys. Actually, it was just at the car dealership getting a vehicle. We're 3 adults in our rental house here, and we have 3 kids and 3 dogs. So we needed 3 cars, one for each person. So we've been having a hard time getting around. So we went and did that today, which the car dealership always takes a little bit longer than you expect it's going to do. So we've been doing that, but a lot of stuff with kids, I'm still working on getting my work visa. So once that comes through, then I'll be kind of full go, just trying to help out the team a little bit here. Got some stuff with the alumni program kind of coming down the pipe, and my buddy's company, it's called Thundercat Technologies, which is a cybersecurity company, which I'll be doing work for, which who would have thought that I'd get into the cyber game. So it's kind of a weird transition, but it's fun. I'm a busy person. One of my nicknames when I was in Montreal was Activities Karl. And it's just because I always want to set something up. I always want something to do. And so I'm not really surprised that this is happening.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense that you're in cybersecurity. You play defense in hockey, play defense in cybersecurity. It's the same thing, right?
Exactly. What's the Rod Langway, the Secretary of Defense, right?
There you go. Nice.
Cyber version. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What kind of mics do you guys have there? Maybe I need one of those.
These, we got these from HyperX. It looked really cool when we were looking at getting mics for this. So that's kind of how we went with them. I actually know someone who had they do like those gaming streaming things, and they raved about it. They said it's perfect. And yeah, they've been great for us. Bulletproof ever since.
Oh, not too terribly expensive either. Some of that stuff can get like well over 200. These were less than that. So
yeah.
Good
nice.
value.
Looks way cooler than this.
I don't know about that.
I kind of like the Furby. I like it.
Yeah.
For anyone watching on YouTube, you'll know what we're saying. But Karl, we want to hop into your career here. We kind of go through a timeline with most of our guests from start to finish. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into hockey in the first place?
Sure. Well, so my dad, you know what? You always give your dad credit. I'm not sure 100% if it was all my dad or if it was my mom that wanted me to get into it. But my dad was one of those guys that was he was just good at a lot of different things, a lot of different sports. So it made it tough for me to always challenge him, because there wasn't really anything I could gang up on him with. He was good at everything. And so I think that was kind of how it was for me. He wanted me to play everything, and hockey was just kind of natural, being out Western Canada. So it was actually funny how it worked. So I'm from Burnaby, BC, and Joe Sakic, Paul Kariya, some pretty good hockey players that have come out of there, and so they wanted me to play out of this arena called Burnaby Minor, which was like just the public hockey rink, like 7 or so minutes from my house. And so they wanted me to get into this other place. It was called the Burnaby Winter Club. So it was a private hockey club, which we could not afford, but it was definitely the best hockey around. And so there was a wait list, couldn't get in or whatever. And so the next day I was supposed to start at Burnaby Minor. And then I guess the way the story goes, we got a call like that evening saying, hey, there's a spot that opened up. It's going to cost X amount of dollars to join. Do you guys want to join? And my parents were like, yeah, let's do it. Mortgage the house. Like, let's get in, whatever it takes. And so we ended up going to this place, Burnaby Winter Club. And man, was it unbelievable, because we crushed Burnaby Minor every single time we played. It was like 14, 15, nothing. It was definitely the place to be. You know, the hockey was just better. The coaches were unbelievable. The players I met, the people I met were great. Actually, Ray Ferraro, who played in the league a long time. Everybody knows now, especially in the media side. His kid came and played with us. We just had a really, really good team. It had a lot of pull. And so that kind of kicked off my minor hockey, which led into junior. I got drafted. I played 1 year junior B, the Jungle called it. It was crazy. Saw my first ever eye gouge there from a guy named Braden.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was nuts. A guy came out of a fight and his just eyes were blue. It's insane. I was 14 too, so it was just like,
Yeah.
like, hey, I gotta be able to protect myself. And luckily, I had a guy on my team that I've never seen it. So I go off on you know, I like to give the full scope of things.
Just go.
Take it.
Hates when I tell stories because it just takes forever. But we had a guy, his name was Brody Henderson, and he actually played, I think he played professional rugby. I'm sure we could Google him. But he was just a horse, like a massive, massive individual. And at one point, I saw him in a fight. He went and one punched one guy, turned around. The other guy kind of got scared. So he just kind of like collared him and just yanked him down to the ground, turned around and then punched right through the next guy's visor. And the visor just split, cut him all over the face. And I was just like, holy smokes, like, I'm so glad this guy's on my team. And so whenever this other guy, Braden or Britton Mint, doesn't matter. Mint was his last name. I'll never forget it. Whenever he was on the ice, I just made sure that Brody Henderson was on the ice too, because it was a little safer. It's one of those guys. So I just kind of got into it like that. Junior B was crazy. I knew I wanted to play major junior. I was already fairly developed at that age, so it made sense to do that instead of college. Played in Calgary. It was the same arena that the Calgary Flames played in, the Saddle Dome. And my first year of junior was actually the lockout. And so there was no NHL team there. So we were the toast of the town. We were getting,
that's awesome,
like 12 to 14,000 fans a game. And that's insane as a junior team in that building. So it was a blast. Had a great time there. We had good teams. My first year there, we should have been a lot better. We were ranked, like there's 3 teams that were ranked, the top in the CHL, one from Quebec, one from Ontario, and then us. We were the 3rd team. And we were the only team that didn't make it to the Memorial Cup that year. I think we had the most fun. I'm going to say that.
Gotcha.
The most of any of the other teams. And so we had a good time there. And then I luckily got to play World Juniors twice, both in Europe, once in Sweden, once in Czech. And the one in Sweden was my first one. I think that really helped me with kind of the whole next phase of hockey, because I was undrafted at the time because I was a late birthday. And so I was one of 3 underage, by underage I mean 18, not 19, being your last year. So me, Brad Marchand, and Leland Irving, I think were the 3 underage
decent
guys.
Company.
Yeah, decent company. And so we ended up on Sam Gagne, actually. He was even a year younger than us. And so, so me and Sam went into the draft that next year, and it just helped. It helps your stock. If you can play a World Junior before you're drafted, it's huge. And so yeah, I got drafted there. Never thought in a million years I was going to get drafted to Washington. I tell this story. It's so funny because so LA picked the pick before them, and I had 3 meetings with LA, and I was like, I'm pretty sure like LA is interested. They need a defenseman. I have a feeling that's where I'm going. And then as I was leaving my hotel, Jeff was in Columbus. Kelly Buckberger, who was with Edmonton, he said to me, he's like, hey, stick around till 6 and you're going to be an Oiler. And I'm like, sweet. So I'm either going to be a King or I'm going to be an Oiler. I knew that for sure. I wasn't going past 6. And so we get to the draft. I'm a lot more at ease now. Like, I don't have to worry as much. I know something for sure is going to happen. And then LA comes up, and they go kind of off the board and pick Thomas Hickey. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I think he was projected late first round, maybe something like that. But I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm an Oiler. That's pretty sweet, because my meetings with Washington were not good. I told a joke that I can't even tell. So bad. And I was like, there's no chance these guys are picking me. And so I'm sitting there, and then I think George even said from the London Knights, and then kind of stumbled for a second. He was going to say London Knights, Sam Gagner, and then he stopped and he says Calgary Hitmen, and then he picks me. And I'm just like, what just happened? Like, that was so out of left field. So I do all my thing, go up on the stage, come back down, and I'm going around the table like you do and shake all the guys' hands. And I said to the one guy, I'm like, honestly, I'm shocked you guys picked me. I thought you guys all hated me after my joke that I told. He just kind of pulls me in close. He's like, I guess that shows you what kind of sense of humor we have. And it was a dirty joke. I was like, oh God, okay. Interesting. It's, it was kind of fun. Like it wasn't all stiff, they were having a good time. And they had, I think they had Subway ordered in during that meeting. They asked to see a picture of my girlfriend at the time, because I had one on me I think it was on the back of my phone or something. It was just a weird interview. Right. And so anyways, yeah, they picked me, and then everything was great from then. It was like, there was two teams that I would always check the stats and the highlights for. It was the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So now all of a sudden I'm on one of those teams, as the other team being my biggest rival. I'm just like, what are the chances I get thrown into this and end up on the East Coast, which originally I thought it was on the West Coast, dumb Canadian joke. And so we get there, and it was just a blast. Like there's a few teams I've heard rumors of around the league that are like really fun teams. Like guys just have a blast. Hockey it's primary, but it's like fun is also primary. And the Caps are one of them. Every single player that's come in through there has always said like how great the guys are, how much fun everybody has at the rink. It's like it's just a good time. And so I noticed that right from the start. Like we just had a blast, which means everyone plays better, your team does better typically, and the rest is kind of history, I guess, from there. But yeah, it was a fun journey. I got to do a lot of cool things. Ended up in a great place, which is why we're back here full time living here, because it was such a good experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to go back real quick to your World Junior experience. You guys win it twice. You were the captain the second time you did it. And I'd just like to run through a couple of your teammates, if that's okay with you. Stop me if you've heard some of these names before. Wayne Simmons, Luke Shen, PK Subban, Kyle Turris, Brad Marchand, Claude Giroux, Steven Stamkos, John Tavares, and Drew Doughty.
Yeah, there were some good players. We were very, very fortunate. The first year in was Sweden, and I don't think a Canadian team had won a World Junior overseas in quite a few years. And the USA team was stacked. Like if you look at that roster, they had good players on that team. And yeah, we ran into them in the semis, and it was the shootout. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a huge shootout performance by John Tays, very similar to what Osh did in the Olympics. And it was just crazy. We ended up winning that. I think that was our hardest game, was the semis, and the finals. I think we won like 7-3 or something like that against Russia. And then the next year, yeah, I was the captain, because like I said, I was one of the only returning guys, and there was a lot of pressure because we had won 4 World Juniors in a row and hadn't lost a round robin game in 4 years. And then we run into Sweden, who had a really, really good team that year as well. And we're up 2-0 in the third period, and they come storming back and then beat us 3-2 in overtime. And we were all just kind of like, what the heck just happened there? Like, we're not supposed to lose. Like, we got a pretty good team here. We should have won that game. And we just kind of took our foot off the gas for a sec. And then, from my understanding, like, we were kind of sheltered, and social media wasn't huge either at the time. So we didn't know exactly what was going on, but apparently Canada was losing it. Like, we weren't the team. We were bad, this and that. You can't lose in the round robin, yada, yada, yada. And so it wasn't a big deal because we weren't really that focused on it. But sure enough, tournament goes on. We play good after that. And there's Sweden in the finals again. We're up 2-0 in the third period. They come storming back, tie it 2-2, and we're going to overtime. And we're just like, this is not happening. Like, this can't happen. And so we just had one of those moments in the dressing room, a regroup and rah, and we came out really, really strong in the third and ended up winning that. So that was just kind of like a relief, because, being the captain, you have all these dreams of, once you are the captain, you have dreams of like hoisting the cup and bring it to the team and all that. So it was just like, just could breathe for a second. Then after that, like everything just seemed to be, once you hit that level of pressure, everything seemed so much easier after that.
What was that pressure like? I know you said you guys were a little bit sheltered from the social media, but to be on a World Junior team and to wear that Team Canada sweater is just a different level of pressure. What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, it is because I was a fan of the tournament. I had played in smaller Hockey Canada things and under 18s and under 17s before that, and so I knew somewhat what it was like. And I know the thought that I had and my buddies had from, the teams previous. You expected them to win. You watched every single game really, really closely, and so I knew that, but I don't really think anything can compare to the pressure that the individuals put on themselves. All of us players, the coaching staff, like that's where the real pressure comes from, because we expect ourselves to win. We expect ourselves to play really, really good every single time we step on the ice. So that's kind of where we felt it. And then when you lose a game and you're expecting to not lose a game, you're just kind of like, okay, like feel bad for yourself for a couple hours here and then just stop. Like, that's enough of that. Like, you're the better team, you're the best team here, you got the best players, great coaches, like, let's just be better. And so after that, it was kind of, we knew we couldn't slip up anymore. And so it was a pressure, but it was also just like, you just know what to do, just play the game. And that's kind of all it was after that.
What's Marchand like? I have to ask, because just, everybody either hates him or loves him. Any good stories?
So that's exactly it. You hate him and you love him. He is when you talk about that person, like, who is it that you would love to have on your team, but hate against Tom. Tom is one of those guys, but Marshy is absolutely one of those guys. He's a guy I've taken shots at many times in games, just because, I don't know, you just hope that you can get one good one in him, one where you can hear him kind of like go, oh, like, oh, you did something to him. But I'll say this is the funniest thing. And he's really good at kind of like, I think, rolling with the punches. I think he told a story of a guy who chirped him the one time, came up, lined up to him at the face-off circle. And so just to go back, Marshy's got like a pretty good sized nose. Like, I got a decent size, but he's got a pretty good sized one. Yes. And the guy came up to him and just asked him, said, "Hey, how did the hot dog smell today?" Like, he's cool about it, good enough to just kind of roll with it. And so at World Juniors, because it's over Christmas, you usually do some sort of gift exchange, a Secret Santa, whatever. And so we didn't have a ton to work with because we were in Europe and all that. And so the gift that he got was one of the funniest gifts I've seen. And can't remember who it was. I think it was one of the stalls, maybe. Would have been probably, must have been Mark Stahl. Anyways, doesn't matter. He emptied out an entire Kleenex box and then shoved a towel into the Kleenex box and gave it to him and told him, got you the new Brad Marchand Kleenexes, because this is the only thing that can help you out. And I just remember dying, thinking, like, that's so
incredible.
That's so funny.
So there's a few that really stuck with me in that tournament specifically, but that was definitely the number one for me.
I think it probably was Mark, because I think Jordan was 06, Eric was 03, so he was probably next in line. So that would make sense. That's hilarious. That's really good.
I actually don't think that Jordan even played, because he made the NHL when he was 18.
Yeah.
So I don't think he didn't make the year before, and then he went straight in. So he didn't. Yeah. So it would have been Mark, because he was. I remember the D pairing, or shutdown D pairing. So yeah, it probably was. Hilarious. He's one of those funny guys. So yeah, it was a good one.
Karl, by my count, you played games in 12 different NHL seasons, and I believe that 7 of those seasons you played 82 games. I just want to talk about how hard that is to do, and if you attribute your ability to do that to anything specific, or kind of your thoughts on that.
Anything specific? I mean, there's a lot of. I've said this, like, when people were asking me while my streak was still going is I said there's so much luck involved. Like, I'm serious when I say there's so much luck involved, because there's things that can, like, so when I got hurt my last year in Washington in the playoffs, I think it was like my second shift of the first game, first period, like on a routine wrist shot from the point that I just batted down and it just blew the bones out the back of my hand. Like, this is something that should have been a nothing play. And it just so happened to hurt my hand that enough that I had to miss a few games. And so I was lucky that the injuries that I had were playable, like I broke my thumb a few times, that it was enough that it was okay that I could still kind of wedge my stick in against my hand and not have to worry about how I was holding the stick as much. Plus, I also played a role where, I didn't have to stick handle as much as a lot of these guys. I could still hold on to my stick and play a one-handed game and be effective out there. And so I didn't have a lot of these serious injuries that some of these guys are dealing with. So that was a lot of it. And plus, I had coaches that were willing to kind of roll with me even when things weren't always going great. Like my first couple of years, they can easily take you out of the lineup just to have another guy go in. We had Taylor Chorney when I was there, who didn't play a single bad game when he was in the lineup, but he came out of the lineup because we had six defensemen that they wanted to play. And so, when my streak ended in Montreal, that it could have gone the other way easily, where they just said, let's just roll with him. Let's see how the season goes and see how the pairings are. But they decided, no, we're going to go these young guys and just completely change things up. And just like that, it was over. Right. So I got a lot of luck. There was some consistency and some battle level that I was able to, the days when you have the flu and you don't want to do anything besides stay in bed, but you find a way to play. Like, there's days like that where a lot of guys will just say, hey, let's just take a day off and feel better tomorrow. But a huge chunk of it was just good fortune.
Where do you think that work ethic came from?
Definitely, that's a family thing. A lot of it was a family thing. There's some just from watching. I watched guys that worked really hard. So my dad was one of those guys that he'd be grinding all day. He'd come home and he'd manage to stay awake maybe 2 hours and then to bed so he could get up early to work again. Same thing with my mom, except she was a night shift person. So, she was doing all that. And then even my sister, she was fierce. That's the best way to put it, was fierce. And so I had great role models growing up. And then when I was like 13, 14-ish, I started working out seriously. And it was a place, it was called Twist Conditioning in North Vancouver. And they would just beat you up, like not in a bad way, but it was hard work. And so right from then, my first ever workouts that I knew, I was like, okay, like this is what the pros are doing. I saw some pro hockey players doing it. Like, this is just what I have to do. And so it was just one of those things where I was used to, just working hard. That was just normal. And if you wanted to be successful, then you had to do that. And another thing that, I saw Brooks Lake, who also had a pretty good Ironman streak when he was in Washington. He was very similar. He wanted to battle through everything. He was always in the gym doing something, always trying to stay fit. And there's lots of guys through the years that I could mention, but just as an example, he was one of those guys where you just watch and you learn that way. And I've always been a guy that learns by watching. So I had a lot of good examples over my years.
He's an absolute freak in the gym. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube page, but it's like nuts. The shit he does is absolutely psychotic. I mean, he's in great shape, but yeah, he's definitely like a little bit of a psycho when it comes to that, in a good way, I guess. I want to touch on your experience in Hershey before we hop into a little more Cap stuff. We actually had John Walton, the Capitals radio announcer, on yesterday. And, obviously he worked his way up through the Washington organization and spent some time in Hershey. And one of the things we asked him was the Caps have been very good for a long time now. And usually when, you have good NHL teams, maybe the prospect pool suffers a little bit in the AHL level, but Hershey's just seemed to be a cornerstone franchise in AHL. Is there anything in particular that you noticed in Hershey where you're like, whoa, like this is why they're such a good AHL team forever?
Well, I don't know what it is, but they seem to get free agents that want to go there. You know, like guys that they know. Well, Hershey's a good place to play. First of all, the hockey is number one in Hershey. You know, besides maybe the theme park there. You know, hockey is like the number one attraction, and so guys know that, because there are some cities in the American League that you just don't really want to have any part of. You know, like they might be okay to live, but you're usually there for the hockey, you know, and that's kind of something that I think drives a lot of the free agency market, is a place where the hockey is going to be good. So that, I think that helped a lot. But also it's just a good place to develop. Like, I think they have it figured out where, you know, you there's a good mix of older players that, you know, have good experience, at least when I was there, that have had good experience, but also the willingness to let the young guys go out there and play. Like the one year it was me and Carly were on the power play at the same time, but then we also had Chris Bork, we had Keith Aucoin, and Alex Giroux. You know, so you had two really young guys and then three older guys. You know, Chris wasn't that old, but older. And it was just a good mix of having the guys learn from those older players, but still having freedom to go out there and mess up and make mistakes and all that. So it just seems like they have it figured out. There's a few organizations where you know, you go and get your seasoning and then you come up and play, and Washington's been one of those for a while. So exactly what it is, I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure, but it just seems to draw a good group of free agents that want to come and play. Plus the drafting has been pretty good.
What was your experience like? You know, you guys go on monster Calder Cup runs during your time there. What was that like for you?
It was very fun, because it's a really weird mix of emotions being in the American League, especially as a young guy. You want to get out of there so bad because you want to be in the NHL, but at the same time you have to be there, and you have to earn your spot in the NHL. And you have a bunch of other guys that also want to do it, and you have some older guys that know they're probably not going to get to the NHL, and this is their NHL. So you can't go there and be a baby and whine about the fact, oh, I'm not in the NHL right now, I should be, because you get pushed aside pretty quick there. Like, everybody sees your attitude. So it was just a really weird balance. One of the great things about Hershey, though, is because it's so small, everybody hangs out with everybody. You know, like, you're all in a walking distance. Like, one of my best memories of Hershey was we had an apartment crawl, similar to a pub crawl, except we had each apartment that was involved decorated their apartment like a theme. So the themes that we did were countries. So we had the first one that we did, I think, was Japan. And we got there, and I mean, I'm not like, this is my geography. I was saying, like, I don't really know exactly what everything is, but in Japan, you know, obviously sushi is kind of a thing. So you had to have an appetizer and a drink. And so they had sushi there, the guys, and sake bombs. So I don't even know if sake is Japanese. I think it is, but
It is.
yeah. And so when we pulled up, they had Japanese music playing from a speaker outside their house, the three guys, and they were all on the roof wearing kimonos, just sitting there, you know. And so that's how it kicked off our party. And then we were able to go there, and no one had to drive. We could walk to the next place, and then we got to like our place, mine and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife Mandy. We were the Netherlands, so we did Amsterdam in the red light district. So we wallpapered our entire apartment floor to ceiling in black wallpaper, and switched all of our light bulbs out for red light bulbs. And we had Heinekens and a beer bong. And then
that's commitment right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a blast. We were trying to impress, you know, you have a job to do. So we wanted to do a good job. And then whatever our appetizer was. And then we went to the next one. We had Mexico, we had everything. And you just can't do that. You definitely can't do that in the NHL, but you can't do that in a majority of American League cities either. So we just had so many really, really great memories. But I had, you know, it was a big time grind. I got yelled at. Me and Carly got yelled at once by Brian Helmer after a game in, I think it was Adirondack maybe, where the coaches told us we were down by one. Coach just kind of said, like, you know, go out there and try and do something. So me and Carly, it was like 2 minutes left. Me and Carly are out there just up and down, like trying to put pucks at the net, this and that. and we were gassed with still like 45 seconds left. And we stayed out there because kind of what we thought we were out there for. And we didn't score. We came back after, and Helms just ripped us, just telling us, like, yeah, you guys are good, but you guys aren't the only person on the team. Like, we got other players that can play, like smarten up. A bunch of different words in there made us feel, like pretty little after that. And just kind of that moment was just such a big teaching moment for me that, I don't think I've ever been that type of person, but clearly I was in that one instance. And it was just kind of like a snap back to, yeah, you were a fifth overall pick, but you're still just one piece of this team. So it was just, there's so many good teaching moments over the year, but it was the grind absolutely took a toll on the body. Like the last year that I was there, I noticed I think it was probably the second round, because we'd always play soccer before the game, and I'd go to kick these balls, my left foot, and I couldn't like get my foot all the way up there without my back starting to hurt. And I'm like, holy smokes, like my flexibility is not there. Like, what's going on? So I'm in the gym, like stretching my hamstrings, my glutes, this and that. Keep playing. Third round comes along, same thing. I'm like, man, it's just getting worse. Like, I'm getting tighter and tighter with all this hockey. And so same thing, stretch it out, this and that. We finally get to the finals. We play, we win. And I wake up the next day thinking, like, this is really not good. Like, I can barely move at this point. Called the trainers. I'm like, what should we do? Like, well, let's go get an x-ray. Maybe you have a stress fracture or something in your back. So I'm like, okay, I'll go get an x-ray. Everything's negative. They're like, yeah, no, you're fine. Probably just wear and tear. Wake up the next day, I can't get out of bed. I'm like, what the heck is going on now? Like, I literally cannot get out of bed. It takes me 5 minutes just to get to my knees and my hands and knees. And so we were flying out. We get on the plane. We land. Next thing you know, it's not in my back anymore. Now it's in my glute, in my leg. And so we call a doctor, a physio guy that we know in Vancouver. And there's actually, this is really funny. So we get to Calgary first. And I was planning on asking Mandy to marry me that summer. And so, of course you do, go ask the soon-to-be in-laws, is it okay? And you get the blessing, that all this stuff. And so her family was living on an acreage. And so her stepdad, who, she grew up with for a really long time, I figured I should ask him as well. He's out on the tractor, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to get out to this guy? He's out on the tractor. Mandy and her mom were gone. I'm like, this is my only time. And so I kind of like hobble my way into the garage. I'm like looking around. I'm like, okay, I got to get on this bike. So I get on the bike. I'm holding on to one handlebar, and then I've got a broom in the other side, and I'm pushing myself over to where he is in the truck.
Oh my gosh.
It takes me like 10 minutes to get there. And finally he sees me coming out. So he stops, turns the tractor off. He's like, what are you doing? And I show him the ring. He's like, what is it? I'm like, well, it's a ring. I want to ask Mandy to marry me this summer. And he's like, so? Like, why are you asking me? I'm like, well, I thought it was a nice thing to do, just to, get your blessing. He's like, yeah, I don't care. Just get back in the house. Okay, so I get back on the bike, get back to the house. This thing was like a 45-minute ordeal just to get myself from the basement up and out and back to the basement. And so it was just crazy. So that all happened. We get back to Vancouver. I get to go to see this physio guy. My mom told him, the family friend, she's like, he's got this little backache, whatever, just need some physio appointments. I go and see him, and he's like, this isn't just a backache. He's like, you've got 2 herniated discs in your back, and you have drop foot. Drop foot means that you can't control your foot anymore. So I can't walk on my heels with my foot just stays flat. So anyone who's had a back issue like that knows. And then my entire leg from my knee down is numb. And so I have no feeling in my knee. This went on for 2.5 months. So that summer, this is all from one playoff run, this is what I mean, how much of a grind it can be. I go from that entire summer, I didn't lift a single weight. All I did was go on the elliptical a little bit and do this thing called the Corex, where it's bungee systems and all that. I didn't skate until I showed up at camp, and it was the best I've ever felt in my entire life. I didn't skate once, didn't touch a puck once, didn't lift a single weight, and I ended up feeling way better than I ever have. And that was the first time I could skate. So it took that long playoff run, took essentially 3 months of summer just to get back to start another season. That was the year I was supposed to make the team. I had hoped to make the team full time. So it was just a panic. You went from this like major high of winning to having this major panic of not being able to train and work out for a season coming up. And it just gave me so much more respect for the teams that are able to do it. Pittsburgh going back to back, Tampa going back to back, even though the first one was get a little break in between, the season and winning, still good in my books. But, it's just such a grind to do it. And then to do it back to back is just put you on another level.
For sure. Let's talk about your call up to the Caps. What was your first game like? That's got to be an absolutely wild experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was really wild. It was right around Thanksgiving, and it was against the Thrashers and Ilya Kovalchuk, which is one of the guys that just as someone who played hockey or a hockey fan knew at the time, especially him and Ovi were kind of like the two guys, the two goal scoring guys. So there was some panic there right away that I might get stuck out on the ice with this guy. What's he gonna do to me? It was just one of those weird situations that goes through your head. But I remember thinking that it was kind of like, like, this isn't that bad. Like I can find a way to get through these games and play and not feel too out of place. So I thought that was kind of nice. And then right after that, we played Montreal, and Montreal had Alex Kovalev, and Alex Kovalev was one of those guys that was just like, I don't think people fully understood how good of a player he was, how much skill he had. Like if you could just
so nasty,
exactly, do some of these things with the puck, his accuracy with his shot, just one of those just ridiculously skilled guys. And so there was one time where he was coming down on me in the second period, came down in across the blue line. He went to go take a fake shot, and I'm thinking, I'm a young guy, like I'm blocking this no matter what. I'm doing something to block this shot. So I kind of freeze up to block it. Next thing you know, like, you do one of these because you don't want to get hit with it. Next thing you know, he's like 7 or 8 feet past me in the middle of the ice. And I'm like, holy smokes, how did that happen? It's been like a quarter of a second. He's in the middle of the ice. And I remember just thinking to myself, same thing, do whatever you can, block this shot. And he went for his wrist shot, and I remember sticking my stick out like full yard sail, got a stick on it, sailed the puck into the net. And I'm just like, you need to be sharper. Like these guys are really good. This isn't like a take a second off here kind of thing. And it was, same thing with Helms, chirping me and Carly. It was an eye-opening moment right there. And, that's just kind of how I remember these things. I remember by experience, and it just kind of stuck with me from then, that you always have to be ready. Just because it was Alex Kovalev doesn't matter. It could be Nick Dowd, all these guys in the league are good enough to do these things. It's just one guy has a first line name, another guy has a fourth line name. It doesn't matter. They're still good enough players. So just be on it. So it was fun, really, really good experience. And then my rookie party came like shortly after that. And it was after that, I felt like I was part of the league.
So let's fast forward to December 6th, 2008, when you get your first goal. You want to walk us through that night, how that felt?
Yeah, so this is funny. I've said this a couple times because I'm doing a podcast now too, it was funny. I think I mentioned it to Steve Wino on it, that my first goal wasn't actually my first goal. It was an assist, and but they gave me credit for it. So what happened was, we were in Toronto, and it was hockey night in Canada. My dad happened to be there. It was, I don't even know how many games, 6 or 7 games in, maybe even more. I might be giving myself too much credit. And I got the puck at the blue line, and I just a kind of a casual wrist shot on net. Wasn't really supposed to be much. And goalie just kind of whiffs on it. And I'm just like, how the heck did that go in? I'm thinking to myself, it looked like it fluttered and kind of changed directions a little bit, not much, but a little bit. And so we came in and we all celebrated and stuff. And I'm just like, because I'm like to Obi, I'm like, did you tip that? He's like, nope, didn't tip it. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, didn't tip it. That's all you. I'm just like, oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Got that goal out of the way. Feeling good. Talked to my dad about it after, this and that. 5, 6, 7 years go by. I'm like, I don't know if you remember this, but my first goal in Toronto, he starts smiling. And I'm like, you tipped it, didn't you? He's like, yeah, I tipped it. I'm like, I'm like, that's hilarious. So like, if you're ever one goal short, you can have that back. We just go to the tapes and I'll vouch for you because
Yeah, man, that could end up mattering too.
Yeah,
We
that
don't
actually
know.
could matter. Yeah.
exactly. So it was
I
kinda
love
fun.
how he waited 5 years
Yeah.
before he said anything. Not like a week or like an hour, but 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah, you let me really soak that in. I mean, I get what I get, like 25 career goals, so everyone mattered. So it was nice of him to let me have that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your rookie party a little bit. You just brought that up. What was that experience like?
That was an amazing experience. I'm sure there's been some great ones since then, but there was talk around the league of it being one of the most epic rookie parties from a lot of people. It was sweet. So what happened was I was actually down in Hershey at the time. Well, so I was called up, and then Bruce Boudreau called me into the office and said, "Hey, like we got to send you down." We were the team was really tight against the cap that year, and that was that year they were going with, normally a team goes with 7 defensemen. So at a training camp, I had a pretty good camp that year, and I was like, it was me, Chris Bork, and Quentin Lang were the last 3 guys there. I'm looking at everything. I'm like, there's only 6D plus me. I'm the 7th defenseman. It's like, holy smokes! I think I made this team. Like, I think I had 2 assists the last exhibition game. Borky had a goal and assist. Like, we're high fiving each other in the hotel. Like, man, we made this team. This is sweet. And so next day we roll in and we both get sent down. And I remember them saying, it's like, hey, like we have 0 cap space. We can't even afford to keep a 7th defenseman right now. You're going down, but you'll get called up at some point. I was like, okay. So we get called up. It was great. Had a good time. And then next thing you know, I'm in the position again. Bruce is like, hey, we gotta send you back down. I know we're going to Vancouver. It's your hometown. It's also rookie party. It's coming up here. He's like, I'm gonna do everything that I can to get you back up for that trip. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Well, we'll see. I haven't really learned the business of hockey yet, so I didn't know how much of it was truth and how much of it was just talk. And so I remember it clear as day. I know that the team is going to be leaving the next day to go to Vancouver, and I'm shopping at the Hershey outlets in the Coach store, and I said to my wife, I'm like, well, I guess it's not happening. I would have been nice to get there, but it is what it is. And like 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from Bruce. And all he says is, I told you I'd get you up here. He's like, pack your bag, get into town. I'm like, holy smokes, that is so sick that he got me there. That he made it work. I'm going to Vancouver. My family's going to be there. This is going to be so nice. So yeah, we get there, and I didn't really know exactly what to expect. So I get down to the lobby, and there's an outfit waiting for me, and we all got it. So my rookies it was me, Michael Neuwirth, Semyon Varlamov. We had Kyle Wilson, who was there, but I don't think he was a paying rookie. And there's one other guy, and it doesn't matter. And we had a trainer too that was there. And so I had gotten a little bit of experience, and I knew that I needed to up my credit card limit, and if I could offer to pay for the other rookies so I could get all the points as well. they could pay me after. Looking back on it, the points weren't worth it, but that was a mistake. And so yeah, I come down the lobby, and there's an outfit for us, and we're all going to dress as Caps cheerleaders. And so I have to go back up, put on my spandex pants, spandex shirt, come back down. So we're all dressed the exact same. Those lasted 10 minutes, the drive to the restaurant. They ended up going from full-size spandex and those spandex pants to a belly shirt and short shorts. And so we ended up having to wear those, and we get into the restaurant. It's called Coast in Vancouver. And one funny thing that happened, so me and Nuvi were sitting next to each other, and like everybody had been having a good time. Dinner was there on the table, and I said to Nuvi, I'm like, I dare you to throw that asparagus at someone. There's asparagus right in front of us. And he's like, no, I can't do it. I knew he's got a hilarious accent. And I'm like, come on, just launch it, see what happens. And so it was Nuvi, me, and Tom Pody. And Tom Pody doesn't drink. He was just there, just taking it all in. And so Nuvi grabs this asparagus, and he just kind of like looks around, takes it, and just hucks it across the room, and it hits Jose Theodore in the face. I'm just like,
Oh God.
Oh
Holy
shit.
crap, like act cool, act cool. And so we're just relaxed, like nothing happened, panicking. And we watch, and Jose goes up to every single person, grabs him by the neck and says, did you throw that? Like, it was you, wasn't it? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're an idiot, man. Like, no one did anything. And then he finally makes his way over to us, and he grabs us both by the back of the neck. He's like, it was you guys. I've asked everybody else. No one's admitted it. It must have been you guys, you idiots. And we're just like, what? Like, we didn't do anything, man. We've just been sitting here. Why would we throw an asparagus at you? And then you could tell he was getting really mad at us. And then Tom is like, hey, been sitting here the whole time. It wasn't them. I've been watching them. He's like, you sure, Tom? He's like, yeah, positive. It wasn't them. He's
What a
like,
guy.
so yeah, so Jose goes back. We look at Tom. We're like, thanks. He just kind of smiles at us and laughs. And like no more than 30 seconds later, a freaking tomato gets launched at the side of the wall and explodes everywhere. A roasted tomato just demolishes this room. And we knew we just start busting a gut laughing because he was so mad. Jose was so pissed after that. I still don't even know if he knows that it was us, but it was just one of those things that, you know, we kissed the fire and we walked away whistling. It was so fortunate that we got out of that dinner. So anyways, I get the bill. The bill was $30,000. It was so long. It reached probably from my belly button down to the ground. And so I paid for the whole thing because I'm like, this was my plan, you know, get the points. And so we finished this up. We get on the party bus and we rented out the top floor of this like boutique hotel. So it was just us and whoever we wanted to invite. And so because I'm from there, I invited my best buddy, of course. I'm like, he's gonna get to enjoy a rookie party. Didn't play any hockey growing up, so this is all brand new for him. So he gets to come into the party, and I'll skip over majority of the party, but it was crazy. There was probably, I don't even know, at least 100 people on the top floor of this hotel. They had a balcony, and I remember one of the guys, like, you know, you don't want people taking pictures of you chugging beers, taking shots and stuff like that, right? So we kind of had like a, you know, everyone keep your phones away. And I remember one of the guys, I won't say who, but I saw him launch 2 cell phones off that roof because he saw a picture being taken. He just grabbed it, launched it, just
love it.
You know, it was just like we just want to have fun. We don't have to worry about a picture getting out of guys shotgunning beers. It's just one of those things. And so we ended up having a good time there, and everyone starts clearing out after a while. And I tried to go to a bar with one of my buddies after. It was still open. I don't know why things were still open at that time, but they were. And I got to the front, and the guy just started laughing at me. He's like, you can't come in here dressed like that. And I had like an overcoat on over top of my cheerleader's outfit. I totally forgot that I was even dressed that way. And he just laughed in my face, said, no, sorry, you're not coming in. And so we ended up getting kicked out. We weren't allowed in, ended up back in my room, respectable hour, and battled through the next couple days just trying to recover. And you know, as all rookie parties, there's a couple guys that didn't quite make it the next day, but there needs to be one or two that are like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an incredible story, by the way. That's so funny, especially, you know, the goalie on goalie prank. I feel like, you know, because they're both goalies, it kind of cuts a little deeper. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Good.
But by my estimation, correct me if I'm wrong, you played in 2 Winter Classics. Am I right on that?
I played in 2 Winter Classics, and then whatever you call the one that they do,
The Stadium Series one.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 in Washington, 1 in Montreal.
So I kind of have a 2-part question. So the first one is, you played in the one in Pittsburgh where they did the 24/7 series leading up. I love Bruce as a result of that. I think he's, you know, a legend. And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
So my first question is, what was it like having the cameras around for like a month leading up to a big game? And then my second question is your sunglasses in the Hawks game in DC. I want to hear your decision making on that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the first one. So having the cameras around at first we all thought it was a little bit strange. I think hockey players by nature are kind of a little guarded and don't necessarily love to show our true colors all the time. And so you could definitely tell the guys that were not wanting to really let loose. Like we had some characters in that dressing room and they didn't want to be those characters on camera, which I understand. And so it could have been so much better. I think it was already good, but I think it could have been so much better if the guys would have relaxed and just did what they did. That being said, I thought it was so cool to see the other team. I wanted to see what Pittsburgh was like. I wanted to see what they were doing. I wanted to see what their facilities were like, what their coaches said, what the players said. Like that was one of the first, behind the scenes chances we had, right? Like I can't really
I think it was the first, and it probably was the best when HBO did it.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was cool too, is we got to know the crew so good. Like we kept in touch, maybe up until just a few years ago, I kept in touch with a couple of those people.
Wow.
And yeah, and like I've always been that type of guy. Like I want my relationships to be long lasting, and so I always try and reach out. But yeah, Eric was the guy's name, and we'd always just send a message here and there. But those guys were there all the time. Guys and girls were there all the time. So it was just like they were part of the team. So I love that we did that. I thought that whole experience was a blast, such a good thing for the game. The game itself was kind of brutal with the rain and rain delays and all that, and that didn't kind of work out the way we were hoping it would. But still a fun game, and
Got a good win too.
Got a good win. Yep, there was a memorable hit that happened there. There was Eric Fair. Eric Fair that cemented his name in history as a hero, and a Dave Steckel that cemented it as a villain. So
yeah, careful what you say. Nick and I are big Caps fans, but Harry here is a Penguins fan. So
It's all good.
That's all good. He's
10 years ago. I'm over it.
No, he's not. No, he is not.
Imagine where he could have been if he didn't miss all those games. Right?
Trust me, I know.
I mean, it's funny. Like at the time when you play against the Penguins and Sid, it's like I hate this guy. Like I don't care what happens to him. Like I just don't like him at all. And then Eric Fair went over there and he said that Sid's actually a really great guy. And I'm just like, nope, it's not possible. And then I play with Shea Weber and he's like, Sid is a beauty. He's like one of the best guys. I'm like, oh man, the second guy that said that now, like there's got to be some truth to it. I'm like, all right, I'll just whatever. I'll get over myself and just it is, my battle with him is separate. He's a great guy. He's an unbelievable hockey player. I have his jersey. It was up in my wall back in my house. So it's like, it's whatever at this point. But yeah, so that game was that game. And then the next one was the one in DC, and there's lots of different ways that guys are battling the sun and the glare, right? So it's not just the sun hitting you, so that you have your visor and your eye black, whatever, but it's the glare that's coming up off the ice that's the real issue. And so I couldn't see. Like I don't know how these other guys were doing it. Like I'm one of those, the blue eyes that really, really sensitive to sun. Just in a regular day, if I don't have sunglasses on, I like get the headaches and all that stuff. So I was just struggling with it. And I think I tried the tinted visor, didn't do anything. Eye black didn't do anything. And so you get a little like grab bag, like at a birthday party of fun things before the Winter Classic. And because I was wearing an Oakley visor, I was one of the guys that got a pair of Oakley glasses in my kit. And so I'm like, thinking to myself, like, I wonder if these would fit underneath my helmet. They're kind of the sport version, so maybe. And so I just threw them on there, put my helmet on. I'm like, this isn't actually that bad. Like, it doesn't bug me a whole lot. So let's give it a shot. So I just went out there and they felt okay. I'm like, I'll wear these for warm up then. Like, this will be okay. And if the sun's still really bad and no one says anything and I'm not going to get in trouble for it, I'll just throw them on for the game, just see what happens. And so, yeah, no one said anything. And I had them on there. I was probably the only guy that could see anything. And it was unbelievable. And I only had to wear them for a period because I think then after we had clouds or the sun went down, whatever it was, and they never came back after that. And then I sold them in one of our baskets that we do, the Christmas or player gift bags at the end of the year, and they left my possession in that, and it was sweet because I saw Groovy did it. I think was it last year in Tahoe, and so it's I don't know, it just made sense. I'm not ashamed to try something out that. I wear those stupid shop lockers on my feet. Me and Carly are probably the only two guys that were wearing the big old clunky ones, and just wore them because it worked. It's not that they looked good or anything. It was just I just didn't care. So yeah, it was a fun moment, and it was some couple good pictures.
We were talking a little bit about Bruce when we mentioned 24/7 and everything, and what a character he was. I'm curious, how you enjoyed playing under him, and if there's any good stories you can tell about possibly his locker room conduct and locker room speeches in between periods and whatnot.
I really liked playing for Bruce, for the obvious thing that I said, that he kept his word about calling me up. That was right away. It was a check mark in my book. So I'll forever be grateful for that. I thought he was really good at getting guys getting their best out of them, I guess. He didn't have too many chains on guys. Like you could go out there and, like, I personally think he unleashed Mike Green. Like that was from when he had Glenn Hanlon to Bruce. It was like a complete different person, and he just let you go out there and do it. Like you still had to be accountable and had to work your bag off. Like did not want you to lose any battles, but at the same time, go ahead and try some stuff. Be offensive, be aggressive, and at least if you're going to make a mistake, make an aggressive mistake. And so I really love that about Bruce, because I've never been like an overly aggressive player. I kind of let things come to me and then try and win my battles. But he allowed you to be aggressive, and so I really enjoyed that about him. He had some funny things. I brought it up when I was doing analyst game last year as an analyst, and I brought up he's got this flow chart that always stuck out in my head of how he would gauge the progress of a team. And it was so funny. He'd always bring this chart out we'd be winning games. He'd bring this chart out in the video room, and we'd all just be like, come on, seriously, not this darn chart. Like it's so repetitive, but he was always spot on with this thing. It always worked out exactly. And I don't know if any of that was mental, but it was just spot on the way that worked. But I will say one of the funniest things about Bruce is, as you could see in the 24/7, like with his speeches, he can get pretty animated. He can drop a lot of F-bombs, and he can sometimes go off. And so he had two things that were, well, one of them for sure, I'll tell you, is that he would say okay a lot. He'd say the F word a lot, and he'd say okay a lot. And so it happened so much that we all started to count how many okays he would say. And so his meetings would be going on, and you could look around the room and you could see which guys were counting them, because they'd just be like they would actually be doing it with their fingers, and they would just like smirk and laugh. And if I made contact with Jason Chimera, it was like, bite your tongue, you do not laugh, because Chimera his face would be going red because he'd be laughing inside, counting his okays. And so at the end, I would write down on a notebook, like, how many okays. Like we have a list of how many he's dropped. Like sometimes it'd be 40, sometimes it'd be 50. I think we had 63 one time in a meeting. And it was just like, that was the thing. Whenever he came in, you had to be on it, get ready to count your okays. Pay attention to the meeting if you can, but it's these okays that are the most important thing right now, because we know everyone's going to talk about it after. But even though that was the case, it was like one of those things that made you more relaxed to go and play, because you were having fun right before you went on the ice. So I thought that was really good. He had a couple unbelievable lines that he threw out that I have them written down somewhere. I just have to find them. It was so funny that I made sure, like, I wish I would have taken a journal of like my whole career and all the funny things guys have said or funny stories, but those are some of them that I do remember, and we'll get that out at some point. I'll find my notebook.
It's funny you're saying all this, because I was just flipping on NHL Network before we hopped on the call, and I was telling Nick, I was like, Bruce was on, and it sounds like he like just wants to say like the F-bomb, like sometimes, like he's like, I can't, I'm on TV, like I know I can't, but you can hear like the stall in his like speech. It's actually really funny.
Yeah, exactly. So in the dressing room, he would either throw an okay in there, or he would throw an F-bomb in there. And on TV, he's got to be, a little bit more buttoned up.
I caught him. He had a really, really good one post game the other night. Him and Alan May had like back-to-back ones, like 30 seconds apart. It was absolutely priceless.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Those guys are good together, I think. Like,
they're fantastic.
It's always nice to hear an opinion from a coach, because a coach sees a game different than a player, than a manager. Like it was nice having Brian Burke on when he was doing his commentary or his analyst work, because he sees it completely different as a GM. Like it's just so cool to have every different perspective. So when I get the opportunity to do games with Bruce, it's not only is it me doing a job, but it's a learning experience for me too.
Carl, I got one other question about playoff hockey and NHL playoff hockey specifically. I think there's one goal that comes to mind in particular, a big playoff goal that you scored. I think it was against the Islanders, if I'm not mistaken. But having been to so many NHL games and being fortunate enough to go to a lot of games myself, as a fan, you can tell such a difference being in the building during playoffs versus regular season, and even just the celebration for a home team goal. When you're down on the ice, is it like as big of a difference as fans might think it is, or is it all kind of the same excitement?
Yeah, so the way that fans ramp up for those games is the same exact way that players ramp up for those games. It's like one, especially if you know you're in the playoffs, it's just a like let's hurry up and end this season so we can start to go. You know, that's what everybody's waiting for. You can go through a season going through the motions to an extent, you know, like you still have to be on, like I was saying, with a player being able to dance you just like that. But you don't have to get overly high for these games, you know, like you're going to go into a Florida or a Carolina where the energy is just not going to be in the building and you feel it. It doesn't happen like that in playoffs. And so what happens is all those plays you make are just that much harder. It's like, it's hard to explain. I guess if you were like, if you think about it as like a workout, you know, it's like, yeah, you can bench press one plate all day long, but the playoffs comes, it's like throwing on two plates, you know, and it's just that much harder. And so your body just gets that much more tired over this length of playoffs, however long you go. And it's also very, very mentally draining because during the season, you can kind of like, you know, unplug and get away from the rink and do whatever you're doing at home. But it's a little bit different during the playoffs. Like you're always ready. You're building for the next game, thinking about how that next game's going to go, what you need to do better and all that stuff. But like for me, some guys are just so fired up after the game and they just have too much adrenaline going. I was one of those guys that I had so much adrenaline going during the game that as soon as it was over, if there was a bed beside my stall, I could be out cold. Like I'm just so spent. I just need to close my eyes and like shut down for a couple hours. Like it's insane because during the regular season, I finish a game and I could go out to dinner, go hang out with people. Like I could stay up for a couple hours, no big deal. But the playoffs, it was a whole nother animal. And that's just, I guess, you know, what that rush can do to your body, you know, how it can drain you that way. So it is a massive difference, and players play better, they play harder, they play more responsible. And that's why the teams that can do good in the playoffs and the players that can do good in the playoffs are so important.
Going off of that sort of, you know, balancing life and hockey, what's it like to have kids while being in the NHL? Because I don't have either of those things going on for me right now. My life's already hard enough. So I can't imagine what it would be like being a pro athlete with, you know, a family and you're on the road and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So that was interesting. So I had my daughter when we were there in Washington. It was fun because we had a lot of young parents at the time. Everyone was kind of having their first kid, and I mean, I guess I'll speak for myself. One kid is fairly easy to handle. You know, there's usually two parents, and you can hire a babysitter if you need it, and you can still go out and do your thing, have a kind of a normal life. And if one parent, you know, you can balance. And then you have two, and it starts to get a little bit tougher, right? You're man to man now, and it's just survival. And then you have another one, and then it changes, right? Because now it's tough because
Now you're playing zone.
Now you're playing zone.
You're on the kill.
Exactly. And I go away to play games and rest and sleep, but I know that back home things probably aren't going super smooth and someone's not getting a whole lot of sleep. And, you know, so then you got just other things at play there. You're thinking about it. And so I've always been very strict with my training and making sure that I come to camp in great shape and spend my time at the gym and on the ice and all that. But then once the kids are involved, okay, let me quickly get my training in and then get back home so I can help out and be with the kids and help your wife out. And then that changes a little bit. Some guys are still fine. They stay in their routine, their rhythm, and that's just what they do. But I enjoy that time so much at home with my family that I'd say that my training took a bit of a hit, and I wasn't quite as focused on I'd say the summer. The in season is different because you're at the rink anyways. But what's great about it is in season, when you do have bad days at the rink, you get to come home and you have no choice but to forget about what just happened because you're doing Lego, or you're playing with dolls. It just doesn't happen anymore. So there's good and bad. For me, the hard part was training when I had 3 kids. When I had 2, it was still manageable. 3, I thought was quite challenging. But I always really took advantage of the time when I got home and I could unplug and plug into dad duty. So it's tough. Some guys are just, like I said, really great at it. You get help if family can come in town, and then it's a little bit easier. But for me, I dealt with that pretty good at times and bad at times.
No, it's good to hear though. It seems like it was a really good balance for you.
Yeah, for the most part.
Well, for the sake of time here, I know we've kind of kept you and you got episode Survivor to watch. We don't want to interrupt that, obviously. We could probably ask you 1,000 more questions, but we might have to save that for another episode. Why don't you talk about your podcast for a second?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a heavy consumer of podcasts. I listen to tons. I go to bed listening to podcasts. When I was in Montreal and when I was in Montreal and when I was in Laval in the minors, I listened to my drive every day was an hour to an hour and a half, depending on traffic. So I'm listening to, depending on the podcast, 1 to 2 per length. And so I'm getting 4 podcasts in on a game day. I'm getting 8 podcasts in. Like I'm consuming these things like crazy. And so I'm just like, I just love that they're a little bit more casual. They're a little bit more nuanced. I can really explain my answers better through, especially if we're doing video too. Like you can explain it through your face, through the way I'm talking. I can back up for a sec. I can't do that in print. You're going to get one answer and that's it. Like I've been dealing with this for 4 years now. I had one thing that got printed from when I signed in Montreal that said that I wanted to go to a team that had a chance to win. And that's all that the headline said. And that's not what I said at all. But now everyone said, not everyone, but people will say, he's like, oh, how did that work out? You wanted to go to a place that won, or that was going to win. And we ended up not making the playoffs and the Caps won the cup, So it's just things like that you can explain a little bit better on podcasts. So I was approached right before the playoffs, right as they were starting last year, to do a podcast that was focused around the Caps. And I was like, okay, well, this was good timing. I've been thinking about doing a podcast for a while. Connor Carrick does a podcast and he seems to have fun with it. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I could do that. The problem is I can't drive the bus. Like I'm not great at asking the questions. I'm not great at making this come together. So I can talk. He asked me questions and I can talk, and I can shoot the shit with my buddies if we have them on. Like, sure, that's easy. But to actually make the podcast happen, I'm not sure I can do that. And so we didn't start last year. We very, very briefly talked about it at one point. And then next thing you know, I just got a text from Stephen Wino and he said, hey, do you want to do this podcast or what? I'm like, yeah, let's just give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So then 2 or 3 days later, we're recording a podcast. I'm like, okay, let's just go. We're trying to hit, it's called All's Caps, trying to play off that all caps thing here in Washington. And yeah, it was pretty clever name. And then it's, I'd say we're fairly heavy into the talking about the team. At least right now we are, especially starting out, trying to get a bit of a following, but also trying to get some guests on. I personally think it's interesting to hear. I like hearing fans talk about hockey and talking about the game and why they like it, what's exciting. Maybe they have questions that they want answers to. I think that's fun. So I'm planning hopefully to have some of my friends on that aren't in the hockey world but are in a different profession that might just want to come on and talk, whatever it's fantasy hockey or about what's going on with the team. Like, doesn't matter to me. I'll talk about anything. And then yeah, have some even the wives and girlfriends and listen to what their experiences are, because you get some wives on the team that have a really big following that it's probably interesting to listen to, to what they have to deal with. Like, I'll give you an example. Me, Mandy, TJ and his wife Lauren were in Disney World a couple of years ago, and we're walking down, and we're all walking, and someone stops Lauren to take a picture with Lauren. She's like, "I know you from Instagram," and me and TJ and Mandy are all laughing like how is it not TJ? Like TJ's a pretty popular guy, but it's Lauren, right? And so it's just, I feel like there's something there where we could talk to the wives as well, and just tap into that female market a little bit. So those are my plans for it. Whether or not we go that route, I'm not sure, but I just want to chat and I don't know, try and, like you guys are doing, just have like a little bit more informal talk about hockey, get some stories out there. I think that's the way to do it. And if people like it, great. If they don't, we still get to talk a little bit, and that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we're still learning too. I mean, we're by no means experts. It is very different answering questions versus asking questions, because when you ask questions, my brain's going a million miles an hour. Like, what do I ask? Blah, blah. And then when you get asked questions, you're a lot more casual. It kind of flows a little more. So there's definitely an element to it.
Exactly. And I'm a big fan of the Armchair Expert podcast. I don't know if you've seen it with Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. And I love that the flow of their conversation is so natural, right? It's just everything, it's usually always building off of what's been said. And that's what I'd like to do, but you got to be pretty quick, like to be able to come up with something to ask and to pivot like that. And I don't know that I'm that quick. So it's that would be like, that's like goals right there, is to get to something like that. But I don't know. I think it's just finding, like the way you guys start, we're just asking some background. Once you get some background on a person, then you can kind of build off that a little bit. And that's kind of, I think, the way that it needs to be structured. But I mean, we just do what the people want. Whatever they ask, we're going to do.
Yeah, it kind of flows. I mean, it's the same way with line mates. You'll pick up chemistry with the people you're hosting with, working in and out of questions. The three of us have gotten a lot better at that. At the beginning, we were always, talking over each other, cutting each other off. And, it's just one of those things that you iron out over time, I feel.
Yeah. How do you guys do that? You guys got a system there that's saying, hey, I'm next. How does that work?
A lot of times you can see the mic. That kind of helps. I mean, so fun fact, this will air, we're recording this on November 3rd. This will air next Wednesday. It'll actually be our 100th episode. So congratulations. Appreciate you joining us. So you just learn over time too. Like there's sometimes I can hear like Mac will take like a slight breath and I know he's about to end his sentence. I know that sounds psychotic, but like I can just tell after a while.
It's just stuff like that you pick up on.
Yeah. Or occasionally, I mean, you can just do one of these, like, next guy's got a thought and you just kind of wrap up what you're saying because somebody else is ready to talk. But
right.
Yeah, the microphone lights also help because when it's lit up, you're ready to talk, or you can touch it off and then you're muted. So
yeah.
Or you'll see your co-host like have the thought almost just like waiting to come out and you're like, okay, I know he's got something.
I'm notorious for that. And there's even with the video helps too. Like, I mean, we post these on YouTube, but we don't really kind of focus too much on the video. I mean, full disclosure, I've taken like piss breaks like mid interviews before. We had the Penguins announcer Steve Mears on and I took a leak like mid interview. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to die. So that's not yeah. But Karl, we really appreciate you joining us. I would love to have you on again to get to know you a little better and talk a little more about, maybe this season for the Caps and a little bit more about your career. So thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, that sounds good. You guys let me know. Let me get a few episodes under my belt and then we can chat a little bit more about it.
Sounds good, man.
Sounds good. We appreciate it.
Sorry again for my start.
Dude, you're good.
Don't worry.
You're all good.
Big thanks to Karl for chatting with us. So much fun talking to him. That was hands down one of my favorite interviews we've done on this podcast so far.
Yeah, it was awesome. I would encourage everybody to go check out his podcast as well that he kind of just started and was sharing a little bit about with us. That's kind of how we got in contact with him, was just kind of talking to him about the podcast he was doing. And then it was interesting too, having him ask us some questions about the mics we were using and stuff at the beginning.
Yeah, it was funny.
Really appreciate Karl's time. Had some great insight on some Caps talk, NHL talk. Sometimes he's on pregame NBC Washington, so keep an eye for him before some Caps games, and just really enjoyed that. I mean, he gave the funny side of hockey, which I think a lot of people want to see. So it was good talking to him, and hopefully we can get him back on in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Just some miscellaneous housekeeping stuff to get to. Harry, how you doing with Crosby and Dumoulin on the COVID list?
Yeah, it's been a rough fuck me, man. It's been a rough start to the season. I was trying to hold it together, but I can't. I just feel so bad for Sid, but it's it is
He
what
only
it is.
played the one game, right? That's
Played
so
against Jersey
brutal.
and we got wrecked. So
Yeah, and he had no points, which you can't blame him. It's his first game, so
yeah, it's just wrist surgery, recovery, COVID, then having Dumo on COVID, Letang coming off of COVID. It's just like Jesus Christ, man, we can't catch a break.
Sullivan too, right?
Sullivan got COVID, so there's a little bit of an outbreak going on with the Pens, but we're staying afloat in the standings. It's all that matters. I ain't looking to be in the playoff picture, before the new year. So as long as we're hanging around, just still lurking, I'm not going to be too concerned. Anything? Okay, just
sure thing, buddy.
Just fucking smile at me, I guess. You guys know how this works.
Just two shit-eating grins from both of us.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned at all. I really am not. If anything, we're resting up for prime time. So
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Mantha is out indefinitely after shoulder surgery. So to get from Harrison's misery to Mac and myself, not good. And also Dowd left the game last night. He appeared to re-aggravate what had been hampering him for a while. So that's a big loss. Both of those are,
Well, it's a bigger loss when you got guys like Eller, Sherry, and Sprong, who, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure those guys have played a single game all season. Like, I haven't noticed them at all. Sprong maybe a little bit. He's had a couple nice breakaway goals, but no, it's definitely not what you want to see. I also don't understand how Mantha can literally, like, he was playing, he leaves that game, and the next day I hear he's undergone successful surgery. Like, Jesus Christ, that happened quickly. Apparently he, like, separated his shoulder or something like that. So
yeah.
Wasn't that the Florida game where that happened?
I think it was. Yep. Yeah, he left like midway through, and I kid you not, the next day he had already had the surgery. So I mean, I guess that's good, because I guess it, like, the sooner the better to get him back in the lineup. But I'm hoping that when Backstrom comes back, we can flip him over to LTIR and make a move for somebody. I don't know.
Tarasenko. No, I'm
Marc-Andre
kidding.
Fleury.
Oh, I don't know if Harrison could, like, handle that, but I know what my next jersey order would be. Patrick Laine will miss 4 to 6 weeks with an oblique strain. Not good for him. That sucks. Peter Mrazek is expected to miss 4 weeks due to a groin injury.
You got to be kidding me with this guy. Peter Mrazek, you've got to be kidding me. He's hurt again.
Yep.
I just laughed at Nick saying not good for this guy. That sucks.
I'm tired of talking about it at this point. It's like 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, we don't have to talk about it until then. Man. Just like, let's push it out there.
I just thought it was funny. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah, it's like, it sucks. Too bad.
I can't believe that with Mrazek. He's got to be like the most injury-ridden goalie ever, behind like Michael Neuvert.
Oilers Devon Shore is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a lower body injury. And then wrapping up here, Adam Fox gets absolutely paid. They lock up their franchise defenseman and Norris Trophy winner to a 7-year deal at $9.5 per. I think that's about where we thought that deal was going to land. I know some people were saying 10, but I think with the term, that's where that comes from.
Same as McAvoy's contract. So I would say that's a pretty fair deal.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And before we move on to the gambling portion of this episode, we just want to remind you that this season, all of our picks are powered by SharpRank. SharpRank created the first ever cross-sport rating system, ranking bettors from any sport on one leaderboard that anyone can dominate, even you. SharpRank is backed by some of the biggest names in the sports gambling world, such as BetMGM, Betway, and Sports Illustrated. Download the free app for iPhone and Android today. And Harrison, I guess I'll flip it to you, because I believe that this is kind of your segment here.
Well, usually I'd agree with you, but you guys definitely have some good trends in here. So I'm only going to take the first two, and then I'll let you guys take over your share. So the two things that I want to add, the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights, they both just recently lost, but before that loss, they had both won 5 games in a row. So they're definitely, oh boy, Nick's typing breaking news and it caught my eye. They both have
Marc-Andre Fleury traded the Washington Capitals.
No, wait, hang on. I feel like we should pause for a second.
I've got some break-in stuff here real quick. Montreal Canadiens goaltender Carey Price shared that he entered a residential treatment facility for substance abuse October in a public statement he released on Instagram. today. So I'm going to read that off real quick as soon as it finishes loading here.
Sure. So I'll get this done quick. Leafs and Knights, they both were on 5-game winning streaks. They got snapped recently, but they're playing well. Leaf stars are clicking. Knights have a lot of injuries, but I would still keep an eye on them. Unfortunately, the value for both of these teams usually sucks. So just pointing that out.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, here's the statement. This is posted on Carey's Instagram page. It says, over the last few years, I have let myself get into a very dark place and didn't have the tools to cope with that struggle. Last month, I made the decision to enter a residential treatment facility for substance use. Things had reached a point that I realized I needed to prioritize my health for both myself and my family. Asking for help when you need it is what we encourage our kids to do, and that's what I needed to do. I am working through years of neglecting my own mental health, which will take some time to repair. All I can do is take it day by day. With that comes some uncertainty with when I will return to play. I appreciate all the overwhelming support and well wishes. I please ask the media and our hockey community to continue to respect our privacy at this time. Your support and respect of this so far has been a critical piece to my recovery. Signed, Carey.
Good for Carey, man. That's a great statement. And, hopefully a lot of people can take a page out of his book. And, if you're struggling, get help. There's no,
For sure.
no harm in that.
Very admirable. And I sincerely wish him the best. I also sincerely hope that the media listens to that request, because I know that the Montreal media can be pretty brutal at times. So hopefully they respect him and the family and give them the time and privacy that they need to get through this battle for him.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely one of those things that's bigger than, hockey, because at the end of the day, that's a guy's life. This is just a game. So some other trends to get to. The Edmonton Oilers, I think it's worth pointing out, are one of, if not the hottest teams in all of sports right now. They're 9-1-0 in their last 10. The LA Kings have also sneakily won their last 5 straight. They've been putting some good hockey games together.
They've looked good doing it. Yeah, I was going to say.
Mac, you and I were talking about this in our group chat a little while back, but I'm adding this team to like my never betting list, because when I bet for them, they lose. And when I bet against them, they always kill my bets. So putting the Kings on the shelf for now. A couple home team trends to get to. Florida is still unbeaten at home. They're 7-0. Toronto is really hot in home. They're like 6-2-1. Road team trends, and these are really interesting. Boston, Montreal, and Toronto have only won 1 game on the road this season, and obviously Chicago and Arizona haven't because they've been horrible. The Rangers have the best road record at 5-2-2, discounting the Islanders because they're 5-3-2, and they've also played every single one of their games on the road to start the season.
Jesus. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that Rangers stat, if you remember from last week, that ties into the Shesterkin statistic I gave out, where he, at the time last week, he was 4-0 on the road. That didn't stand the test of time, obviously, here in the past week. But that's a good stat there, Nick. Road teams always get good value, and the Rangers are playing some good hockey.
Yeah, if they go into like, a team that's a dumpster fire, like in Arizona or Chicago, puck line on the road is one of my favorite bets.
Yeah, for sure.
And going off of that, I actually might like the Islanders this week on Thursday on the road in New Jersey. Hot tip there.
Nice. The Dallas Stars under is dead. It has not hit all 3 times this year since someone leaked that. Who was that? Was that you, Harry, or was that Mac?
It was me, and I'm going to clarify what you just said because it kind of broke my brain because I wrote it wrong, so apologies. But last week when I gave this stat out, the Dallas Stars under had hit all 8 games all year. In the 3 games after I told that stat out, it hit over every single time. And of course I bet the Stars under every single time. And it's just
how it goes.
Fucked me. So that's how that goes. I do want to add before we get to the McDavid prop, the Lightning first period under is still a really good bet. I can't explain why. It's just something that I've been riding this season. So it's made me some good money.
They either like score and it's 1-0 going into the first, no one scores, or it's like 1-1 or something and it loses. But
yeah, that's usually how bets work. But
yeah. I just meant with the Lightning. Yeah, I guess it's like an idiot thing to say, but like with the Bolts, for whatever reason,
score more goals than the other team,
right. You can't lose games in the NFL and expect to win. Who said that? I think that was Trent Dilfer.
It was one of those good. Yeah. Nick, I've been told I got to rip on you a little more by some listeners. They said we don't give you a hard enough time. So
right here, baby, bring it on.
Okay,
right
we'll
there.
bring it.
Seems right.
Yeah.
And then obviously McDavid over 1.5. I think I think he's played 11 games and it's 8-3 so far on the year. So that's pretty darn good. And then Leon, I mean, maybe there's a new sheriff in town, who knows, but he's leading the league in points. He's just right there with McDavid. A little bit, Mac, you tell me, I think you bet it the other day, a little bit better value. No?
Yeah.
It is a little bit better value for sure. And both of them to score a goal is usually roughly the same. It's usually like plus 100 or like right around there, give or take like 10 on either side. But the over 1.5 has been a little bit better for Dreisaitl. I don't know if that'll change though, now that he just blew the fuck up in the last week.
Yeah, right.
I noticed the odds were getting closer, but at one point, like Dreisaitl still had a plus in front of his. So
yeah, he did as of like last week. I think I still got him on a plus on that Rangers game we were talking about with the pretty goal and then the Leon OT winner.
Yeah, I think those days are gone of the plus odds for that. So
yeah,
enjoy it while you can.
What have your thought processes been with betting these, like one versus the other, or betting them together?
You talking about Connor and Leon?
Yeah.
I like sprinkling a bit on each rather than hammering one because it's pretty rare that neither of them hits. But of course, you are risking that, you get double fucked.
Yeah.
I think, though, if you just like decide what you would want to put on one of them and then either do that or split it in half and put half on each, you're going to be in the same boat either way, pretty much. So I think that's probably the advice I would give.
So I'm looking this up right now. I just had this thought because it occurred to me that similar to Zach Hyman scoring goals that we gave out at the start of the season, he's on the same line as Connor. It makes sense that he's going to get a lot of goals. The value is great. It's usually around plus 200. So he's got 7 goals in 10 games. But here's one that I just thought of. Given how good that power play has been, I don't have the stat up in front of me, but I know they were clicking at like 50% at some point last week.
At home, especially.
Tyson Barrie to get a point is a great bet. I'm looking right now. He's played in 10 games so far this season, 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points. So,
he scored in that Ranger game, right?
I believe he did. On that power play, he's quarterbacking with Leon and Connor working the half walls. You got to think that's an easy point for him, given how well that power play has been going. So if you're a little hesitant to be doing the 1.5s with McDavid and Dreisaitl and the values that are presented there, maybe you go with Tyson Barrie.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the
Nuge has 0 goals in 10 games, but he's got 14 assists. That's what a fucking stat line.
I know,
Holy
right?
crap.
Also, just to tell you tonight, for example, Dreisaitl to get 2 points is minus 110 and McDavid is minus 143. So it is still a little bit better. Goals, however, is actually flipped. So McDavid is plus 100 or even to score 1 goal. And then Dreisaitl is actually minus 105. So I guess it's pretty much the same, but
they got Detroit tonight, right?
They do. And it's away.
Okay.
Away for Edmonton.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. I'll think on that. We'll be sending out picks here shortly. So
yeah, for sure.
That's all I got for this episode.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. We just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their continued support over these past 2 years and 100 episodes. It's crazy to think that in that time we've, seen 2 different Stanley Cup champions, a global pandemic, and a whole bunch of nonsense on here, but we really, really appreciate the continued support. Thank you everyone who's ever liked something, who's ever come out to an event, who's ever, subscribed to the podcast. It keeps this thing going. So continue to do that. We really appreciate it and just can't thank everyone enough.
Second that. Well said.
Yeah. Go check out that fall merch. There's some great stuff up there. There's some great stuff coming at the end of the month. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got some cool guests coming up for you guys within these here's to the next 100. There's hopefully going to be 100 more coming up after this. There's going to be some current, future, former NHLers in there, some current and former NCAA players in there, some current and former national champions in there. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And let's go ahead and talk about this giveaway, Harry. I think people want to hear what they can get before we get to our little demo episode.
You want me to take it?
Absolutely.
All right. So for this giveaway, we are giving away a Brackish Life long sleeve t-shirt, performance shirt, very comfortable. 2 Empty Betters whiskey glasses. You can't find these anywhere else. They're not on our store. They were specially made for us. And the ringer, in my opinion, the Empty Betters hockey jersey, which you cannot buy anywhere. Limited time, limited edition. They were a one-time buy. So you're going to get number 19 on the back since we started in 2019. You get the Empty Betters nameplate. So if you want to try and win these 3 things, here are the rules for the giveaway that we'll be posting on Instagram. You got to follow us on Instagram, follow Brackish Life on Instagram. We're going to make a post about this. You got to share that to your story and then tag 2 friends. That's it. You should probably already be doing 2 of those 4 things. So just do the other 2 quick and you get entered right into this jersey, whiskey glass, and Brackish Life long sleeve giveaway. It's a celebration of our 100th episode and having the best fans in the world. So yeah.
That giveaway's got like my 3 favorite things in the world: liquor, hockey jerseys, and Brackish Life. So
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we'll be posting that probably sometime Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that. Any final notes before we toss it off to this little 15-minute demo episode from August of 2019?
Just one more thank you to all the fans for supporting the pod for the last 100 episodes.
Nick?
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, we're going to toss it over to this demo episode. That'll do it for us in the 2021 present tense, I guess you could say. So without further ado,
Class dismissed. Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to Empty Betters. Today we're talking about the NHL Network's top 20 centers list right now in the league, and we have some issues with it, so let's get started.
So obviously McDavid and Sid being 1-2, I completely agree, even as a enormous Penguins fan.
Interesting. I actually had them flipped. I put Sid 1 and McDavid 2.
Did you actually?
Yes. Yeah.
Holy shit.
I think while, McDavid is probably the most skilled player in the league right now, I think he still has a lot to prove in his two-way game relative to what Sid does.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree. I don't know, man. McDavid, it's a for sure 100 points, and I know points aren't everything, but I mean, Jesus Christ, the guy.
Look at what 100 points has done for Edmonton. So.
Yeah, no, he's a complete. Yeah, really, he's a complete beast. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can really go either way with that. Whoever answers that, if you don't have one of those 2 as the top one, then you're a fucking.
You did it wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. But it's definitely 1-2 McDavid, Sid, and don't come at me with anything else.
Exactly. So who'd you have for number 3?
I got McKinnon.
Easy.
I'm totally fine with that. Who do you have for 4?
Barkov.
Do you really?
I do.
I have Bergeron.
Okay. So, you're not going to like where I put Bergeron.
Jesus.
Barkov's built like a house. He's, obviously one of the most skilled players in the league. I don't know how you stop that man in a shootout. Not that that matters, but I just don't think you do.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm going to sound really guilty, but, I mean, I'm not really watching too many Panthers games.
I don't know anyone that is.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. But I don't know. I think people have taken the he's so underrated comment and just absolutely, overused it. It's gotten to the point where everyone says he's so underrated that now I feel he's actually
because
kind of
he was so underrated and they just talked about it. Now he has publicity.
Yeah, it's make up your mind. I don't know. I don't even have him in the top 10.
Okay, wow. All right. So who do you have at 5?
I have Evgeny Malkin.
Okay.
No Penguins bias.
Who does he play for again?
Yeah, no Penguins bias. I swear, hand to God. Honestly, if you look at the all-time points per game numbers, which is my favorite stat, that's the Skip Bayless QBR stat. Malkin's right behind Sid, and Ovi's third. And I mean, obviously, those 3 guys are generational talents, and it blows my mind how they have Malkin 13 on the list. Let me give you the names above him, right? Stamkos, never done anything in the playoffs.
Finals. That's it.
Braden Point, 1 good season. Tyler Seguin, I mean, he's good, but
most of his wins, let's be real, are off the ice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're with the blonde who was, 2 rows back. So.
Yeah, I mean, Matthews, I just haven't seen enough. If he stays healthy, he'll shut me up, I'm sure. But
I have him at 5.
wow. And Tavares, Barkov. I don't know. I just feel like I get the list just for best players right now, but I don't know. I can't get it out of my head that I haven't seen enough.
This is a tough list. I think out of all the positions, I mean, maybe, defenseman, your top 5 might get a little dicey, but I think this one is got to be one of the most contentious lists that they're going to do this summer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
So to review, my top 5 is McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Bergeron, Malkin. Who do you have?
And my top 5 would be Sid, McDavid, McKinnon, Barkov, and Austin Matthews.
And then for 6 through 10, at 6, I have Johnny T.
Okay, same.
At 7, I have Steven Stamkos.
I have Nick Backstrom.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I will not. I actually will not hate on that, to be quite honest. 8, I got Mark Scheifele.
Okay. I have Stammer at 9, or at 8, sorry.
That's fine. And 9, I have Matthews.
9, I have Bergeron.
And then 10, I have Backstrom. But actually, now that I'm doing this list, I would put Backstrom ahead of Matthews.
Okay.
Just because, like I said, if he stays healthy, he will shut me the hell up.
Exactly.
I know it, but I just can't. I don't know.
10, I have Kuzi, and I know that's going to be a Capitals bias there. And obviously, after the season Kuzi had, you could probably put him maybe not even on this list, but I think just talent-wise, he's got to be in the top 10. The NHL having Braden Point as number 10
Fucking joke.
is an absolute joke.
I'm sorry. I
Great
don't
player.
care.
He's obviously better than either of us because he's playing in the show.
You sure about that?
Right. But, that's ridiculous.
It blows my mind every summer how they make these lists because it's like, oh, it's like right now, but it also kind of has some like previous history in there. You can kind of tell with certain players. He plays on the greatest team of all time. I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He got 92 points, whatever. I get it, but like.
But you or I could probably get 75 playing on that line. So.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, they have him at number 10 above Evgeny Malkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov. I didn't even put Logan Couture above him. I'm being dead honest. I mean, I get that.
I did too.
Let me see it. Yeah, no, I did too. Playoff performer. I don't, like, seriously, I don't know. I just think that you got to have a little playoff background with, them shit in the bed.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that you put guys like Sagan, who, have been in the league and who have, excelled with 2 separate teams. And you have Ryan O'Reilly, who just basically carried the Blues through the finals. I know that, team effort and everything, but let's be real, who was their MVP?
Yeah.
And then, there's guys like, the list goes on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I just, Mike Rupp's smoting something. I don't know.
For sure. For sure.
I don't know, Rupper. You let me down on that one.
Exactly.
Let's do 11 through 15.
Okay, so at 11, I have Gino.
Fuck you. Jesus Christ. All right, I'm not even going to acknowledge that. I have Alexander Barkov at number 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
12, I have Ryan O'Reilly. Obviously, great season this year. Conn Smythe? He won the Conn Smythe, right?
Yes.
Yes. And grade A F-bomb on national television. Gotta love that. And it was great to see a guy who's been in the league as long as he has finally get something done on a team that no one thought was going to do anything.
Yeah. Didn't he like drunk drive into a Tim Hortons?
Yep. Most Canadian thing you can do ever. Unless there's a moose in the passenger seat. That's the most Canadian thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have Kuznetsov at 12 and then O'Reilly at 13. O'Reilly, killer season. I get if the NHL would put him above him just for, based on last season, but I'm sorry. Kuznetsov is going to make the players around him a little bit better.
I feel like what the NHL does is they pick like a handful of centers that have like a great year, or the NHL Network does this. They take a handful of centers that had a great year the year before, and then they're just going to ride their dicks through the rest of the year.
100%.
And that's the Braden Point
Stupid
theory
shit.
right there.
I can't stand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Kuznetsov. I get the whole Russian thing where they're inconsistent. Like other than Ovechkin, he's the exception of the rule. But for the rest of them,
look at Kucherov in the playoffs. I mean,
exactly.
Where was he?
I just think that there's there's no way you can have Ryan O'Reilly legitimately as a better player than Kuznetsov. I'm not saying he's far away because I have him one behind him, but I definitely think on my list with Kuznetsov at 12, the talent definitely tapers off afterwards.
For sure.
So, yeah, I got Kuzi at 12, O'Reilly at 13, and then I have Couture at 14.
Okay. I have Couture at 13, Scheifele at 14, and Eichel at 15. And I think like you said about Barkov, I don't watch many Jets games. My experience with Jets games has pretty much been if I'm up late enough to catch them on. Scheifele's talented. He's big.
I think his size is huge for him.
It really is, because if he was, 50 pounds lighter and, 2 or 3 inches smaller, I don't think he would be as good. Killer shot if he gets open.
Absolute
I just think
rocket. Like, seriously, you watch the NHL Network highlights in the morning, as we're fucking bashing them right now. He picks corners. And what I like about him is he can kind of he's not Sidney Crosby, so don't get me messed up with that. But one thing that he does really well is he can play on the fly, but he also is really good down low and in the corners. And I'm speaking strictly off highlights in my experience on gambling Jets money line over and over, and always being failed by it. But,
yes, exactly. I will never bet Jets money line ever again. You heard it here first.
Yeah, but he uses his body really well. I mean, he's always shielding guys off. He actually initiates contact just like Sid does, and I like that a lot about his game. Maybe that's me just being a little biased because he reminds me of Sid in that way, but I have him a lot higher than that.
Okay.
What number did you have him at? I'm sorry.
I had him at 14. I know you had him a lot higher than that.
Yeah, so I had Couture at 14. My 15 is Tyler Seguin.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people would probably say he's more skilled than Couture, who I have one above him, but strictly based off playoff performance and I would say not importance, but leadership, I'm pretty certain that Couture will get the C.
For sure. And I think, if you're going to go off playoff performance, has there been a better playoff center in the last 5 seasons?
Yeah, no. Well, Crosby,
you could say Sid, and you will say Sid, but
yeah. No, other than that, no. He's. Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I get you. But yeah, Couture's a beast. I think he's really underrated.
For sure.
And then, who do you have 15? I'm sorry.
15, I have Eichel, and as we said before we started recording this, we both think that Eichel has immense talent. His skating is second to none. He has that unique stride. Where he's just able to either run over you or go around you. Wicked release, but we both feel he's still kind of stuck in the I'm at BU and I'm going to grab the puck behind my net, take it, weave through everyone, and, put it top cheese kind of mentality. And I think once he transitions out of that and becomes a little bit more of a two-way NHL center, I think his game is going to improve a lot, and I think that Sabres team is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. We were talking about the BU thing before we were doing this episode, and I couldn't agree more. It's like there's all this hype around the name Jack Eichel, and he's a really fucking good player. Like, he's really fucking good. But I just haven't seen the consistency yet, and I actually have Braden Point at 16 and Eichel at 17.
Wow. Yeah, and of course saying this, playing center in the NHL it's got to be one of the toughest positions in sports. It's so demanding both offensively and defensively, and your head has to be in the right spot. So, it takes time. I think we're at a point with the NHL where we're so used to these kids coming in at 18, 19 and just lighting it up. And, it definitely does take some a little bit more time to acclimate themselves to the pro game.
Yeah, especially for the Sabres.
Yeah.
And then to finish out my last 3, I got Monahan at 18. Love his game. Love the Flames. I'd say probably my favorite West team. And then I got Aho at 19 and Pettersson at 20. I don't know why, but I just can't get the image of Pettersson getting thrown into the ice out of my head. He's just like this little stick that gets manhandled. It just makes me want to put him at 20. He'll obviously climb that list, but
and let's be real, he's absolutely sick. The season he had this year is just unbelievable.
It's gross.
He gives Vancouver. Other than Brock Besser,
Yeah.
That's it for Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean, they got Hughes, but other than that,
True. Yeah.
Hughes would be good.
Yeah, but he went to Michigan, so I mean, dumpster fire.
MSU fan
anyways.
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you
Go
tell?
green.
Yeah. You want to round out your last 5 just to?
Yeah. So 16, I had Sagan. I actually had him below Eichel. I just think obviously Eichel's got some growing up to do, but I think the skill set there is a little bit different. I actually put Pettersson at 17, and I think, like I said, that goes back to the wicked skill set he has. I think once he, gets a little more acclimated, similar to Eichel, he's going to be a stud. 18, I had Braden Point. We both knew he was going to fall pretty far down on both of our lists.
Not top 10.
Not top 10, yeah. Barely top 20. 19, I had Aho. Can't stand the guy. He's a freaking cap killer, but man, is he fun to watch. It just sucks that he's banished down in Carolina. And then 20, I had Monahan. Like you said, Flames are a ton of fun to watch. And I think that, might be because we don't get to see many Flames games, but I definitely stay up for them when they're on national television. So those are always fun to watch.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning in on this one, and we'll see you on the next one.
Later, guys.